Hey, no, friends, I'm gonna ask you to do that. You have well, sitting on the side and the students. And my violins too. There you go. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ronald McFadden. I have the humble pleasure of serving as chair of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. And I would like to welcome you all to the December 12th public board meeting of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. For those of you that are online joining us virtually, please make sure that you mute your phone. Those in person also, please do that so that we don't have any distractions in the meeting. Anyone who does not mute their phones virtually may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call to identify who is present. Please identify yourself if you are virtually before speaking for the record. Vice Chair Roberts.
Present.
Commissioner Coy.
Present.
Commissioner Esposito.
Present.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Present.
Commissioner Lawson.
Present.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Sally.
Present.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Present.
And I am present. We are all here. That's very nice. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So moved, Roberts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Please join me, everyone, in standing for the presentation of colors by the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps from Patterson High School.
Air Force. Guarantee season. Nine, 3, 2. MD. Person permission to present photos.
Permission granted.
Thank you, sir. About face. Ones that are. Code. Present. Code. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
It's one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. You see, I thought journey lies. Oh, so and the sun speaking. Oh, the stars.
Thank you to all of our student performers and our JROTC from Patterson. We have Nelsie Oyuela, Jennifer Morillo, Julian Shiflett, Darius Brown, and Jefferson Argueta from Patterson. Also from Abbotson Elementary School, under the direction of Ariel Wershing, we have on violin. Our violinists are up front. Are you standing violinists? Okay. Let's give them all a round of applause. We have Micaiah McDade, we have Prince Jeffries, we have Calvin James, we have Jasmine McCray, we have Liam Woodard, we have LeBron Jeffries, we have Malia Boyd, we have Isaiah Amoroso, we have Braylon Folks, we have Liddell Brown, we have Kyra Burrell, did I pronounce that correctly? We have Gavin Thompson, we have the Anthony Mister, and then our chorus. We have Jakira Boy, we have Tyler White, we have Leslie Jovel, we have Tredessa McKenzie, we have Garrett Carter, Nayeli Diaz, we have Jamari Chester, we have Dalian Rivera, we have Brielle Lindo, we have Jennifer Jones, we have George Fleming, Lyric Clayton, Raylia Newsom, we have, is it Kaylee or Kali? Kaylee Baker, we have Taquan Davis, we have Michael Frederick Kings Dumas, we have Michaela Bradley, we have Mariela Nieto Rivera, we have Montrell Watkins, we have Joseph Manuel, and we have Salman Alzandani. Did I do that correctly? Let's give Abbotson a huge round of applause. Thank you all very much. Follow Miss Wershing. She's going to lead you. Keep singing. Keep playing, young people. I promise it'll earn you some scholarship. We're going to hear a little bit more about that tonight, too.
Oh.
Very nice job. Just give me one moment, everyone, please. Did everyone say hello to everyone in the room? Say hello. Say something nice to the person next to you. Give them a compliment. Greet them. Look at that. It makes the room feel so much lighter. I'd like to take the time, as we shift, unfortunately, to recognize the passing of city school students. Each of these individuals were a part of our school communities, and they will be remembered fondly by the Greater City Schools community. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to their friends and their families. In the Reach Partnership School, we have Khalil Jones, who's a 9th grade student at the Reach Partnership, that was very respectful and caring to the staff and had expressed an interest in trying to change his life around. Lil greeted staff with a smile and a hug each and every day he attended school. His pleasant demeanor and infectious smile are greatly missed at the Reach Partnership. Carlos Ivan Osquerera Funes was a senior at Patterson High School. He first joined the Patterson community at the height of the pandemic in January 2021. Carlos Ivan, from the start, was a very enthusiastic student, one of the only students who would turn on his camera and keep it on so that his teachers and classmates could see that infectious smile. He was enthusiastic about making the world a better place and helping out his classmates. He would always ensure that everyone smiled and was so generous with whatever he had, even if it was his last piece of gum, he would share it. He was a leader in the Hermanos Mios program and Soccer Without Borders. He spent some time after school volunteering in the community at Clay Hill Charter School and community events sponsored by HOLA. In the summer of 2023, Carlos Ivan won a scholarship award for his enthusiasm and dedication to volunteering in the community. Carlos Ivan's dream was to either be in the military or to become a police officer so that he could ensure to protect others and make the world a better place. He also had an extreme passion for and interest in cars. He was extremely loved by staff and students alike and has left a huge void in the community. He will absolutely be missed. The world was a better place with Carlos Ivan in it. Would you please join me in a moment of silence for these two students that we've lost? Thank you. Their motion to approve the prior open session minutes.
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously. I want to welcome everyone again here and online to our December 12th board meeting. We're very happy to be here tonight to continue the work here in city schools. The spirit of celebration is all around us as city schools as we rejoice during the holiday season and we prepare for a new calendar year. We want to first congratulate, drum roll please, the Mervo Mustangs and the Dunbar Poets for becoming the 2023 football state champions. Mervo is this year's Class 4A/3A state champion, and this is the school's second state title. Dunbar is the Class 2A/1A state champion, and this is their, take a guess, throw out a number, 13th state title. To celebrate, both football teams have done media interviews highlighting their success and even joined Mayor Scott at the City Hall Christmas tree lighting and the 50th annual Mayor's Christmas Parade. Congratulations again to both teams and shout out to Coach Patrick Nixon, Coach Michael Carter Sr., and all the Mervo and Dunbar staff for a job well done. Let's give them another round of applause. Next, this is very special to me. This young person is very special to me. I want to congratulate John Page, a recipient of the 2024 Young Arts Award in the category of Voice Classical Baritone. Let's give John a round of applause. The Young Arts Award, John is a 12th grader at the Baltimore School for the Arts. The Young Arts Award is given to the most accomplished young artists from across the United States. These artists demonstrate exceptional technique, a strong sense of artistry, and a depth of thinking/performance that exceeds the level of peers at this stage in their career. Young Arts Awards winners receive a monetary award of between $250 and $10,000, as well as a lifetime of creative and professional support. Please give John another round of applause. As a reminder, in the coming weeks, city schools will announce a series of opportunities for parents and staff to learn more about the district's 2024-2025 school budget. During that time, meetings have already begun. You will have a chance to share your thoughts on how we spend money for student wholeness, literacy, leadership, equity, and district office structure. Before the budget can be finalized, it is essential for the public and each community member to voice their concerns on the direction the budget is taking. Next school year, the district will not receive ESSER funds, federal funds, that was provided to us due to the pandemic. So schools are going to do some work navigating through that in the coming weeks, along with their community stakeholders. Working with the smaller budget, the district will have to make some hard decisions on what programs will remain and which ones will discontinue. We need you to help us focus our priorities and our funds in areas that directly support students and staff. We highly encourage you to visit the City Schools website for details about the budget reset and stay tuned for more details on the school budget feedback sessions. To recognize important holidays during the winter break, tonight's public meeting will be the last for this year. We hope everyone enjoys the festive season of love, peace, and shared happiness. As we usher in the new year, we want to extend our warmest wishes to our students, family, staff, partners, and all of the commissioners that are here tonight. The past year has been a journey of growth, resilience, and shared accomplishments. We are immensely grateful for the collective efforts that have been made by all possible. To our students, thank you for your curiosity, for your enthusiasm, and dedication to learning. Your achievements are a testament to your hard work and determination. To our families and our partners, all the village, thank you for your ongoing support and partnership in the education of our students. Your involvement is invaluable, and together we are creating a foundation for success. To our CEO, to our teachers and our staff, thank you for your unwavering commitment to shaping young minds and creating a positive learning environment each and every day. Your passion and dedication make a lasting impact on the lives of our students. And to each of my commissioners, my fellow commissioners, thank you for your wisdom, for your leadership, for your sacrifices, and your collaborative spirit. We've all been very supportive through the past several months and instrumental in steering the district towards success. We are wishing everyone and your loved ones a happy holiday. And to end my remarks tonight, our former student commissioner should be in the room. Is Ethan with us? Ethan, come on up, Ethan. Ethan and your family, come on up. You can have a seat right there. Yeah, yes, Commissioner, former Commissioner, your seat has changed tonight. Parents, you can come. No, parents, you can sit right there with Ethan. Ethan served as our interim student commissioner from June until our new commissioner was elected just last month. And so, Ethan, we just wanted to take a moment and an opportunity to tell you how much we appreciated your thoughtfulness, your contributions at each of our meetings, and the way that you advocated for young people and the way that you continue to advocate for young people, leading our student union, working still in ASCBC, preparing yourself at Polytechnic Institute to go. Have you chosen a school yet? No? Is that still secret until? Okay, it's still secret. All right. But we just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for the work that you are continuing to do in our city. I'm going to open it up to board colleagues if anyone wants to share anything to celebrate Ethan. And thank you to your parents. Parents, thank you for lending Ethan to us. It is not an easy job, but we know that parents are the reason why students are as involved in many cases as they are. So thank you for lending him to us. Late nights, several late nights, but thank you for the work that you're doing with your son and for lending him to us. Commissioners, anyone? Commissioner Coy?
I'll be brief, but I will say a few words, which is I've always been impressed by your thoroughness, your integrity, the degree to which you care about both the questions and the answers. You came more prepared than could have been expected, and indeed than sometimes I felt that I was in some conversations. You are an impressive individual, and I know keep the flame of what drives you burning. You're going to do some pretty incredible things. One word of encouragement I would offer is for you to spend time connecting with previous student commissioners. As you go back through the years and see who has served in that seat prior, I think you'll find an alum network that is impressive. And is throughout. I've had the chance to work with a few of them that I found out, and then I was not surprised to have found out that they served as you did as a student commissioner. So thank you for your time and service here on the board.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Coy. Commissioner Lawson?
I just really want to echo what my fellow commissioners have said. Ethan, your leadership in the city is really like unprecedented. You set a standard for this position, and I'm looking forward to continuing the hard work and dedication that you've put into this position. So thank you so much for your leadership. Congratulations.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
My seatmate. I had the pleasure
getting to know you in a different way over here as we sat. And I just want to say, I think I'm a fan, and I've told you it often, but publicly, just how I admire your servant leadership. That it was not just your curiosity that you brought to this meeting, it was the questions and concerns of students, and you felt very strongly about representing them authentically, and you did just that. Such an amazing servant leader. I encourage you to continue, and your level of curiosity, your level of courage in asking the hard questions, your level of service to others. It is admirable, and it will serve you well in your future. I am excited to see all the places you go and all the things that you do, and I hope that you stay in touch.
Thank you. Commissioner Sally.
So Ethan, I want to say thank you so much. I had the pleasure of serving with you on the policy committee this past year, just for mentoring me, helping me understand the perspective of young people who experience our system in very different ways. And so it's something that I saw you undeniably bring from ASCBC into this seat here, in a way in which I learned so much from you. So I'm very appreciative of that, and I can't wait to see where you go next. So
Vice Chair Roberts.
Hi, Ethan. I just want to say that it was an absolute honor and privilege to serve alongside you. As you go forth after you graduate, I want you to really take time to hold on to the fact that you created a legacy for Baltimore City Public School System. You were a vital voice in helping your student constituency to advance student voice by way of voting. That is something that the entire United States, all 12,000 school systems are looking at, because we're an anomaly in that way. So I want you to really own that and know that you've created a legacy in that way for years to come. Thank you.
Dr. Santelises.
Well, Ethan, I was chuckling when you didn't answer the college question, because I know this week is a tense week for college students across the country. But you handled that pressure question like you have handled many a board meeting, with a level of preparation, kind of dignified professional response. And I just want to say a personal thank you for the work that you have done revitalizing, along with many of your sitting in the board seat. We have just revitalized the ASCBC in Baltimore City. It's almost as if it went from almost dormant with a handful of chapters to now really a vibrant, not only organization, but frankly, living organism of young people in our city. And that is due in no small part to your leadership. So you are leaving a legacy, regardless of what those emails say in the coming weeks. Just know that you are a Baltimore City gem, and we really appreciate the time that you've spent with us.
Ethan, is there anything you'd like to share with us? Sure, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, because I know for a fact I would not be in this seat if it weren't for you and the youth that mobilized, re-energized all these different spaces. I appreciate you demonstrating what participatory decision-making looks like, and also for teaching me, holding me accountable. And I think that you're fearless, and I think that you're going to go on to do amazing things.
Hold on, give me a second. We want to make sure that we can hear you. Just make sure you're muted, please, folks online. Thank you. Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're going to go on to do amazing things, and you're not just a leader, you're a sustainable change maker. And somehow you all find joy and humor in doing all this hard work. So yeah, I appreciate you.
Ethan.
I didn't actually realize I was going to speak, so I didn't prepare anything. So I apologize for that. But just reflecting on my time, when I joined ASCBC as a sophomore, as Dr. Sanalisa says, there were an odd 20 student government associations in Baltimore. And we doubled it the year after that, and then we doubled it the year after that. And I just think that, you know, knowing all that I know in terms of the work that has gone into, as Dr. Sanalisa says, really revitalizing that that vehicle for student engagement, and seeing that, you know, at the time we didn't necessarily see students in the way that we see them now in terms of being a part of the puzzle, you know, in the boardroom and in the decision-making process. And just for me, I'm very proud of like just seeing the way that that has really flourished in my time on ASCBC and then eventually my time on the board. And I mean, I also just want to recognize the really hard work that a lot of other people have put into that, because this year we had over 2,000 students voting in our student elections. And, you know, we went 3 years ago from not even having any kind of footprint in student engagement really to now leading the state and having the most progressive student engagement policy in the country, you know, in really demonstrating to other districts and jurisdictions what that looks like and what centering students in our decisions looks like. And that's not, you know, just a credit to me or even to ASCBC. That's also a credit to all of you as board members that took that on as a priority and really listened to us and were willing to hear us out. And, you know, I can't really fault in any way the democratic process, because seeing the ASCBC that I joined, where 5 poly students were on it, and now knowing that there's not a single poly or city student in an elected position, because we spread student government so far into every corner of this city, to the point into our charter schools, into our virtual learning programs, into our educational programs for our incarcerated students, right? Into every possible avenue that it could go. And in that respect, I take passing the baton onto kind of Commissioner Lawson, honestly, very proudly, because all I'll say is that if anyone was, you know, in any way concerned that by my departing the board, ASCBC was going to be any less vigorous in the work that it does, I think that Commissioner Lawson is going to quiet people very quickly on that assumption. So I just wanted to say thank you to you all, and I know that we're only going forward from here.
So Ethan, we have a gift for you. So we're going to present you with something that will hopefully be able to carry you through wherever you choose to land. I know, just tell me once you decide. Can you just, okay, just tell me. All right. But we're going to present that to you, and we're going to ask you and your family to join us so that we can get a photo with you. Okay, you're going to come up? All right. Thank you. Just bear with us, everyone. Vice Chair almost got me.
No, I didn't, but I want to say one more thing, one more celebratory thing. Can everyone join me? Won't be better than those cute little faces singing to you. But Saturday, our chair celebrated his birthday. So at the count of three, can we do one humongous happy birthday to Chair Ronald McFadden? At 1, 2, and 3. Happy birthday! We have a small treat because our commissioner is vegetarian and he does not like dairy. So we did not get a cake. So even the milk chocolate, or even the chocolate on
Look at that, the milk chocolate.
it's not. The chocolate doesn't have dairy in it, right? Okay, the chocolate on the strawberries don't have dairy. Look at
Thank you
that.
very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the PEP and quasi judicial matters?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson, excuse me, Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. I will now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for CEO comments.
Great. Thank you very much, Board Chair McFadden. I'm going to invite Chief Emily Nielsen for this evening's PEP agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises, and good evening, commissioners. If your name is on the PEP this evening, if you could either stand up to be recognized or come on camera so we can recognize you. From the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, an appointment recommended that Bruce Stahl, currently Educational Associate 10-month at Booker T. Washington Middle School, be appointed Educational Specialist 2, IEP Creation and Compliance, effective January 8th, 2024. Recommended that Emma Gerson, currently Educational Associate 12-month Special Education Supports, be appointed Educational Specialist 2, IEP Creation and Compliance, effective December 13th, 2023. Recommended that Simon Birnbaum, currently Assistant Principal at Benjamin Franklin High School at Masonville Cove, be appointed Director of Grading, Assessment, and Scheduling, effective January 16th, 2024. Recommended that Tina Ruiz, currently Educational Specialist 2, ESOL, be appointed Coordinator, Multilingual Learners, effective December 13th, 2023. From the Office of the Chief of Schools, an appointment. Recommended that Delilah Holmes, currently Teacher Elementary at Mary G. Faring Elementary Middle, be appointed Academic Content Liaison Mathematics, effective January 2nd, 2024. On the CEO notification, an appointment from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, Erica Dorsey Ball, currently Manager Special Education, be appointed Director, Operations and Administrative Services in Special Education, effective December 13th, 2023. And an acting / interim appointment, Catherine Meath, currently Academic Content Liaison Literacy, be appointed Acting Director Literacy, effective November 27th, 2023 through January 12th, 2024. And an addendum CEO notification from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, an appointment. Charlene Roach Glimpf, currently Associate Dean of Special Education with Relay Graduate School, be appointed Executive Director Special Education, effective January 16th, 2024. Congratulations to everyone on tonight's PEP.
I will just say good evening to everyone. I am not feeling fantastic, so I will be leaving after my remarks this evening. The chief the chief of staff, thank you, see, you could die of a head cold. The chief of staff, Allison Perkins Cohen, will be sitting in for me the remainder of the evening. But you know that if I am in not feeling that great, there is a good reason for that. And when I was trying to make the decision about, do I just stay home or do I come in? When I looked and saw some of the people that we would be recognizing this evening, it was important for me to be here in person. And I did use lots of hand sanitizer. So I'll make sure that as I'm shaking hands with each of them, that we keep you safe as well. But the first person that I wanted to be sure to recognize this evening is Fred Larson Dewona. And is Fred here? Thank you. And part of why I want to recognize Fred, and this is personal, and that's okay. It's one of the few privileges CEO is to recognize people who go out of their way to do something that they don't have to do. And I think it was probably a month ago now. I was coming down the steps from the fourth floor to the third floor. If anybody here has gone down those steps, you know that they are concrete. And I really had no business trying to multitask on those steps, be on a phone call, arrange papers, or anything else. And I fell down an entire flight of steps. And those steps are concrete, and my head was headed towards the concrete floor. And Fred was there, and he dropped everything, and he literally like caught my head so that I could have had a concussion. It could have been far worse. I am not 16 anymore. I am very well aware that falls, particularly on concrete steps, can be very dangerous things. And Fred was there. And he didn't have to be there. He could have just said, oh my goodness, but you never know when you're going to step in until the situation calls for it. And it called for it. Fred was there. I want you to know my family thanks you. And I thank you because you could have just stood there and you didn't. You jumped in. And my brain is still where it needs to be. So thank you very much, Fred. And I'd like to come up and just say thank you. So now, in what is a theme for this evening, clearly this idea of safety and covering and protecting, it is now my privilege to recognize the extraordinary dedication and valor displayed on numerous occasions already this school year, and we are only in December, by several officers in our school police. These men and women exemplify the professionalism and courage demonstrated throughout our school police force in the accomplishment of their mission to secure and protect our schools, students, and staff. As I call each officer forward to receive their certificate of recognition, I ask you to hold your applause until the full group is assembled so that you actually these school police officers are being recognized. They are not, while they do many things in our community, from coat drives for kids and learning every young person's name and face. When I read these, you will understand the true bravery and valor that our school community is blessed to have in these men and women who serve, given some of the challenges in our city. On September 27th, Officer Adrian Bailey Hill identified several adults, one of whom she believed to be armed, in the area of Augusta Fells Savage High School. Although she was off duty, Officer Bailey Hill radioed for assistance, and Sergeant Clyde Boatwright, among other responding officers, made an investigative stop, which led to the arrest of the suspect and the recovery of the handgun. Officer Bailey Hill and Sergeant Boatwright, please come forward to be recognized. On September 29th, Officer Jeffrey Jones responded to multiple gunshots outside the stadium during a football game at Reginald F. Lewis High School. Officer Jones canvassed the area and found a severely injured man with a loaded handgun, which he confiscated while rendering aid until the man was transported to the hospital. Please come forward, Officer Jones. On October 11th, Officer Ennis Braxton and Corporal Betty Covington prevented a potential tragedy from occurring at Joseph C. Briscoe Academy by intercepting an armed student who had threatened a staff member. Could Officer Braxton and Corporal Covington please come forward? On October 16th, Corporal Kenya Hall Fall recovered a handgun and made a significant arrest at Walter P. Carter Elementary Middle School, demonstrating her commitment to keeping our community safe. Please come forward, Corporal Hall Fall. On October 25th, Sergeant James A. Johnson demonstrated exemplary courage at Northwood Elementary Middle School, where he intervened and fearlessly confronted an armed suspect, successfully disarming him and effecting his arrest. Please come forward, Sergeant Johnson. And finally, following the tragic shooting incident outside Carver Vocational Technical High School on October 27th, Officer Synethia Porter provided life support to one of the victims and preserved the crime scene, playing a crucial role in the successful apprehension of all individuals involved. Officer Porter is enjoying a well-deserved vacation, but we will see to it that she receives her certificate. And I just want to congratulate all these officers on your selfless heroism and dedication. Oftentimes we talk about groups more than we talk about individuals in our society. I think it's more convenient for the brain to kind of cluster people as one, but I think one of the things that is distinctive about each of these officers is that their individual acts of heroism, and I do need to remind people that oftentimes we have school police officers who are apprehending armed suspects when they themselves are not armed. So the level of bravery that it requires is at a very different level when they themselves do not have the full kind of equipment, so to speak, to do their jobs. They run in when other people run out. And so for that, I want to thank them as individuals, and I want to thank them for exemplifying all that is best in Baltimore City Public Schools. Thank you all again. And then finally this evening, when I thought about whether I'd be home in bed instead of heels and kind of comfy slippers, the major turning point was the fact that we have invited Major Akil Ham, who is Chief of School Police for the past 6 years here this evening. Chief Ham, it's wonderful to see you. But I do need to say that part of me regrets it because you're here on the occasion of you retiring after 23 years of dedicated service to our students, our staff, and our schools. I am incredibly grateful to Chief Ham. One of the reasons why City Schools has been as effective in the partnering around safety as we have is because Chief Ham led from the place of young people. He led from schools. He led from being among the people that he was serving. Akil Ham was highly sought after and recruited throughout the peak of his career. There were people who were calling him from jurisdictions across this country. And each and every time we could have rightfully lost him to another jurisdiction, he stayed. And he stayed because the young people of Baltimore City were his kids too. Because he saw himself and sees himself not just as a school police chief. He sees himself as a protector of this generation of young people. He is one of the few people that I could trust who knew what it meant to take policing seriously, but who knew the difference when it came to working with young people. He saw them all as his two sons who are here this evening with him and many of his family members. I want you all to know your dad probably talked about you as much as he did anybody else in this entire school system. He just beams and beamed with pride. And you all actually were, I think, part of the driving force of why he did his work and led with both heart and mind. Anybody can be a trained professional, but not everybody can be a trained professional with a heart who centers young people, their protection, and his stewardship of that in the way that Akil Ham did. Major Ham, you were recognized and are recognized nationally as a security, as a police professional who understands what it means to integrate wellness into police work. Our officers were among the first and only trained in the state of Maryland in everything from de-escalation to culturally responsive policing and on implicit bias. And frankly, you know a heck of a lot about positive school culture as well. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, even though you could have gone 10, 20 times over to any other jurisdiction, you chose to stay. And I want you to know that I personally thank you for that. And know that we collectively, as Baltimore City Public Schools, thank you. We could have had very different school policing in this city had it not been you leading and setting the example. And as I told you when I came in, you about the only person I would get out of bed with some tissue for. So I just want you to know we salute you, we thank you, and your legacy is sure. Congratulations. Do you want to come up?
Thank you, Madam CEO, Sir Chair, and board members in the community that are here. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this meeting and being recognized. Leaving here and putting that in to you was the hardest thing I probably ever did. But one of the things that I walk away from here with is knowing that I was committed to this district and all the students and staff that were here, and that I gave it 150% till I couldn't give anymore. And I just want to thank everyone. If it's not too much of a issue, I'd like to ask my team to come up, if they would. Because without them, without my team, this work could not be done. They stuck in there, they hung in there with me when I made tough decisions that frankly sometimes didn't make sense to people at the time. But what I tried to do is tell people, look, we cannot criminalize our kids. We have to make tough choices about our kids' futures, and we should not be arresting 1,000 kids for misbehavior when we can deal with it a different type of way. And what that looked like is us going from probably arresting 1,000 kids to about 60 or 70 in the school year. So being we led the state in arresting students, and I think we had the lowest numbers in the state in arresting students once the mission took, everybody bought into what we were trying to do. And we weren't trying to hide numbers. We just made decisions more holistically, and we thought about our kids and the situations that they came from. And we just looked at it a different way. Betty Covington, who's here with me now, she had gems. Girls expected more success. Sending young people to college, only going after those students on the fence. Corporal Fayal, who's here, also had a program in Maryville. Betty had something in Southern, Sergeant Johnson in Southern, Boatwright doing stuff, Jeff doing stuff, Bailey Hill doing stuff, my man Braxton in Sandtown doing stuff. And Norm, I want to thank you for holding it down. This time last year, I was in the hospital. This time last year, I could not walk, I could not talk, I could not eat on my own. I couldn't do anything. And God is good. I let go, and I let God have his way. And because of the work went on, and the work is going to continue. And that's something that I feel relieved by when I hear about, because I wasn't here for all this.
Listen, you got us one of these, so we good.
So what I would just close out by saying is thank you, my kids in the back, Akil and Malik.
Yeah, why don't you guys come on up? Come on up.
All right, so real quick, even though he's very big and he looks like a pro wrestler, this is my baby son who plays for the Baltimore Ravens. And he's a linebacker. He went to City College in Roland Park. City School product. This is my oldest son, Akil. He went to City. He's a police officer for the Maryland Transportation Authority, and he's in the Navy Reserve. Very proud of him and all the good stuff that all of our children are doing every day. And I'm still in the background praying, and I'm still cheering you all on for all the work that you do. And thank you. God bless you. Happy holidays, and thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So can we all, hey, Chief, Chief, let's go for a picture. You want to have the family come on up? All your family that's together?
All right, everyone, there we go. Thank you. I can see everyone now. All right, here we go. 1, 2, smile. Couple. Yes, I did. Thank you.
And with that, Chief McFadden. Listen, I'm about to say Chief McFadden. Chair McFadden, I turn back over to you, and Chief Perkins Cohen will sit in my stead, I think, when she gets back. Until then, Chief Sivan will in my stead until she gets back. All right?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Santelises. I am going to adjust our agenda so that we can move more quickly into public comment. I'm going to review the consent agenda. Board leagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. Item 9.01 BCA Code of Ethics, third reader. 9.02 Policy GBCA Compensation, second reader. 9.03 FY24 Supplemental Appropriation Armistead Gardens Construction. 12.01 Curriculum Associates LLC. 15.01 Bronner Builders Inc., Booker T. Washington Building number 130. 15.02 Bronner Buildings Inc., Charles Barrister Elementary School number 034. 15.03 Bronner Builders Inc., Rosemont School number 63. 15.04 Bronner Builders Inc., Westport Academy. Janus Contractors Inc., William Packer Elementary. 15.06 Janus Contractors Inc., Woodhome Elementary. 15.07 Janus Contractors Inc., Coldstream Park Building. 15.08 BMC Services Inc., George Washington Elementary School. 15.09 Clyde McHenry Inc., Cecil Elementary School. 15.10 Baltimore Curriculum Project Charter School Lease Agreement. 15.11 Rams Bus Service LLC, School Bus Passenger Van Transportation. 15.12 Plumbing Repair and Maintenance. Care First of Maryland Inc., Medical Preferred Organization PPO. 16.02 Care First of Maryland Inc., Medical Point of Sale POS Program. 16.03 Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Mid-Atlantic Inc., Health Maintenance Organization, HMO. 16.04, ComPsych, Inc., Employee Assistance Program. 17.01, NCS Pearson, SchoolNet Software Maintenance and Support. 17.02, University of Chicago. Thank you. We will now move to public comment. Speakers from recognized groups will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. First, we have Christina Duncan Evans, representing the Baltimore Teachers Union. Good evening, Christina.
Evening. Good evening to the Board of School Commissioners, BCPSS staff, and members of the public. My name is Christina Duncan Evans, and I'm the Teacher Chapter Chair of the Baltimore Teachers Union. I'd like to begin with the issue of decertification of the Career Pathways section of the BTU Teacher Contract, Section 5.2, the BPP SLP. The Career Pathways portion of the contract covers the 6,527 city schools employees in the teacher chapter and includes clinicians such as school psychologists and speech language pathologists, as well as library media specialists, school counselors, social workers, audiologists, occupational and physical therapists. Decertifying our former structure without a detailed plan in place leaves our educators without much needed certainty about their financial futures. BTU members who are in non-teaching job positions are concerned about the lack of detail for them in the board's new Career Pathways plan. The board's framework for new pathways includes a single mention of RSPs or related service providers. A leadership role for RSPs is mentioned without any additional details, and our questions about this role have gone unanswered with the exception of outreach from Commissioner Esposito. Thank you, Commissioner Esposito, for meeting with city schools related service providers and hearing their concerns on this issue. City schools related service providers do critical work for the school district. Meaningful career pathways for related service providers are an important retention strategy, and our educators deserve them. We ask that you collaborate with the BTU at the negotiating table to create a career pathway system that supports all members of the teacher bargaining unit. Another aspect of decertification impacting the teacher chapter has to do with current applicants for the model pathway and the accelerated professional pathway. Hundreds of teachers were in the middle of an application process when the district decertified the contract. Now, with the application deadline looming, the board's negotiations team has refused to guarantee that successful applicants will get the pay raise they've earned. It's disheartening to our members that hundreds of hours of work that have gone into career advancement may be disregarded by their employer with no notice. City schools model and lead teachers are similarly negatively impacted by the decertification of the BPP SLP. Teachers and related service providers who have achieved model status and lead status under the former system are alarmed by the district's plan to remove their model and lead salary after 3 years if they don't earn national board certification or apply for one of the district's new leadership roles. Many model and lead teachers want to focus on their students instead of taking time away from teaching to apply for national boards. For those who do want to apply, it takes at least 3 school years to complete a national board's application and receive scores, and 30% of applicants don't pass on their first attempt. Is the board willing to issue a pay cut of thousands of dollars to the 30% of unsuccessful candidates, as well as model and lead teacher who need additional years to apply, those teachers who don't want to apply for MBC, and those for whom there is no MBC component? We have to pay mortgages, college tuitions, and student loans, and other financial obligations that are structured over multiple years. A sudden potential pay cut of thousands of dollars would be devastating. The district's lack of detail around new proposed leadership opportunities is frustrating. The district has yet to provide an answer about how many leadership positions there would be and whether there would be enough for the 700 existing model and lead teachers to transition to. We have asked how much funding is expected for these positions, but we've only been told it would be limited in initial years and potentially increase over time, providing that Kerwin is fully funded in the future. Members are concerned to learn that in the district's framework, these leadership positions would vary year to year, and teachers would, quote, move in and out of these positions over time. This kind of potential pay instability is leaving teachers stressed, distracted, and considering leaving city schools. Finally, I would like to bring up a troubling pattern of board activity. As you know, members of the public wishing to sign up for public comment must submit their names in advance. When City Schools employees sign up to submit public comments, board staff has contacted the supervisors of those employees to inform them. The employee's supervisors have then contacted the employee not to give comments. This is retaliatory, and it is attempting to limit employees' free speech rights. City Schools employees are members of the public and have the same rights as anyone else to bring concerns to the board in a public meeting without intimidation. It's inappropriate for the board staff to take these actions, and we ask that this practice be discontinued.
Thank you for that, Ms. Duncan Evans. Next, we have Yasmin Blanchard, President of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City. Yasmin, are you with us? Who's? Do we have a representative from ASCBC prepared tonight? We can circle back if no one shows up at the end of the additional public comment. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Judkins, the Board Executive Officer, for additional public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Our first public comment is from Samantha Drymiller from Charm City Virtual. Go ahead and come forward. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening of the members of the board, esteemed educators, parents, students, and community members. My name is Samantha Drymiller, and I have been a teacher at Charm City Virtual for 3 years and a teacher with the district for 7, as well as a member of the BTU. I come before you today to advocate for Charm City Virtual, a remarkable program within the Baltimore City Public School District that deserves to become a fully funded school. This proposal is grounded in data that unequivocally demonstrates not only the academic success of students enrolled in the virtual program, but also the profound impact it has had on addressing the unique needs of students with special medical, emotional, and physical requirements. Firstly, let us celebrate the undeniable academic achievements of the students participating in the virtual learning program. The data speaks for itself. These students have excelled beyond expectations. Through personalized learning plans, adaptive technologies, and the flexibility inherent in virtual education, students have been able to progress at their own pace, mastering concepts and skills at a level that exceeds traditional classroom models. Beyond academic excellence, we must recognize the virtual program's unparalleled ability to cater to the diverse needs of students. The individualized structure provided by the virtual learning environment has proven to be a game changer for these students. Whether facing chronic illnesses, emotional trauma, or physical disabilities, students in the virtual program have thrived, breaking down barriers to learning that traditional classrooms often struggle to accommodate. Now, as we embark on the journey to transform this virtual program into a dedicated school, it is crucial to include students in grades 2nd through 5th. The data shows that these students have benefited just as much as their counterparts in other grades, and becoming a school would allow Charm City Virtual to expand that opportunity for more students to benefit. The individualized structure and flexibility of the virtual program have proven to be effective across various age groups, creating an inclusive and adaptable learning environment. By continuing to include grades 2nd through 5th in the program, we are not only ensuring the continuity of success, but also embracing a holistic approach to education that spans the crucial formative years of a child's academic journey. This move to become a school that includes grades 2 through 5 would signify a commitment to innovative education and acknowledge that the landscape of learning is evolving. In conclusion, I urge all of us to consider the transformative impact we can have on education in Baltimore City by turning the successful virtual program into a dedicated school. By transforming this virtual program into a fully funded school, we not only acknowledge the triumphs of its students, but also pave the way for a more inclusive, adaptive, and successful educational future for all. Together, let's embrace progress, celebrate achievement, and invest in the potential of every student. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is emailed to be read. This is from Trinae Phillips Davis. A proud parent of two, sorry, I have a lot of comments coming up. Two wonderful Charm City virtual scholars, one in 4th grade and another in 8th grade. Additionally, I have the privilege of serving as the current PTO president, working passionately to support and enhance the educational experience for all students within our vibrant virtual learning community. My dedication lies in advocating for the success, well-being, and continued excellence of Charm City Virtual. The proposed recommendation to merge the virtual learning programs overlooks crucial aspects that have contributed to the success and efficacy of Charm City Virtual. The program was built with a specific vision to cater to the diverse needs of students excelling in a virtual setting and those with health limitations. The distinct function or focus on personalized learning, meeting grade level standards, and nurturing student wholeness has been the cornerstone of its success. Elementary students in virtual settings aren't merely small replicas of their older counterparts. You say their developmental needs significantly differ, requiring a tailored approach that acknowledges their unique requirements for movement, engagement, and developmental support. Transitioning these elementary students abruptly into in-person settings disregards their established virtual learning journey, potentially affecting their academic and emotional well-being. The proposal lacks essential stakeholder input, specifically the voices of parents, families whose children are directly impacted. Their insights and experiences are crucial in shaping any significant changes, ensuring decisions align with the best interest of students and families involved. The decision to close the elementary program appears hasty, especially without exploring viable alternatives or seeking additional funding sources. A successful program like Charm City Virtual warrants the pursuit of various avenues to secure funding and sustain its elementary program rather than abruptly terminating it. Rather than merging or terminating programs, there's potential in transforming Charm City Virtual into an official school entity. This move could solidify its structure, secure dedicated funding, and ensure its continued success while preserving its unique methodologies and support systems. In essence, the proposal to merge the virtual learning programs disregards the specialized needs of elementary students, lacks community involvement, and overlooks potential avenues to sustain the program independently. The success and impact of Charm City Virtual Learning Program, particularly for elementary students, necessitate a more thoughtful approach, one that involves stakeholders, explores alternative funding sources, and considers the unique needs of each grade level. And this is from Trinae Phillips Davis. The next public comment is from Danielle Terry Frisbee, and this is a video.
Hello, Chargers. My name is Keely Vasquez, and today I want to tell you the reason of what does virtual learning mean to me. It means a lot to me, but the one reason it means to me is I know that I'm safe in the school. And virtual learning. Hello, Chargers. My name is Keely Vasquez, and today I want to tell you the reason of what does virtual learning mean to me. It means a lot to me, but the one reason it means to me is because I know that I'm safe in the school. I know that I'm safe virtual learning, safe in the internet, and I like to be around people I know and I love, like my family. And it means it's really important for me to learn virtual because it wouldn't have been the same if I was in person. For me, it's much better virtual learning. And I really love enjoying making mistakes because when the problem happens, occurs to my computer, I know I can find the problem, and then if it happens again, I know how to solve it. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I love virtual learning. It's because I make mistakes over and over again and I already know how to fix it. And it makes me overjoyed because I love making mistakes. And that's what virtual learning means to me. Thank you.
And virtual learning means to me a very, very, very good thing. We might not be able to do regular school, but virtual school is the best. You get to do stuff while still stay at home. It might feel a little weird at first, but you won't know until you try it. It's great to me. It's the best thing I've ever done. It's the best thing I've ever done. Virtual learning is the best. I love it more than anything else. If I can even think of it, virtual learning, because all the times that I've been virtual learning, it was the best. The best ever. I love virtual learning. This is what virtual learning means to me.
Virtual learning means to me that all the possibilities I could do, I made new friends. It feels like home to me. Virtual learning is the best. And it feels like every time I go to virtual learning, it feels warm inside. And it's amazing what virtual learning is. And it's just awesome.
Thank you. Our next public comment is another email to be read. This is from Marlena Barbera. I am an OT and model cohort 20 applicant, 23-24 school year. I submitted half a model portfolio last year, working a total of 150 hours outside of work hours. I am submitting the second half this year and have already logged over 100 hours of outside work. I am writing to express my extreme concern over the district not ensuring that this year's model applicants will be awarded the Model 1 salary. I've spent time working on my application almost every evening, weekend, and even 3 days post-op from a major surgical procedure. This process is strenuous and highly demanding. To not guarantee fair compensation demonstrates a complete lack of understanding and knowledge by the district of this process. To give you a better understanding of what goes into achieving a model status, here are just a few initiatives I completed and submitted. Initiating and organizing an animal-assisted therapy program at 177 and 64 with my certified AAT dog, Molly, for students with special needs to assist with emotional regulation. I am also part of the district's trauma response team, and Molly and I have provided support to thousands of students following traumatic events, such as the 5+ school-related shootings last year. Creating, writing, and facilitating multiple achievement unit courses and providing to hundreds of colleagues. Creating a digital social story library utilized by the district at large. And creating a professional learning community that impacts 50+ staff members. All of this was completed in addition to my regular responsibilities while my department is very short-staffed. If the district chooses not to reward excellence for those who achieved model this year, it is a surefire formula for staff attrition is beyond demoralizing. An employer is only as good as their word. And when I signed up for this year's cohort, I did so under the belief that model awardees would be fairly compensated. I strongly urge you to rethink the stance on not rewarding model recipients this year and advocate to award what is fair. The alternative will be staff disengagement, loss, and lack of all the great initiatives that model teachers lead. Respectfully, the district can't afford to lose any more staff at this point. If anyone has boots on the ground in any school building, this would be highly apparent. This is from Marlena Barbera. Our next comment is a video, and it's from Juliana Klug for the Charm City Virtual.
dedicated teachers, paraprofessionals. Charm City Virtual is a community filled with dedicated teachers, paraprofessionals, therapists, supportive staff, a principal and a vice principal, and a host of other parents who support a safe space for our kids to learn, grow, and thrive.
Charm City Virtual was started as a response to COVID-19, but it was not the pandemic that brought us here. What truly brought us here was the need for safety and order.
All the things that are going on in schools across the country, I feel so much better with my child being at home. I feel it's more safe.
The stress of leaving my daughter behind where no one kept her safe crippled my body.
As parents of a medically complex kid who will not benefit from home and hospital because of her need for OT, speech, and special instruction services within a small classroom setting, virtual learning has provided that. And it ensures that she is protected as far as her chronic lung disease is concerned.
Charm City Virtual is awesome because it is a great place for kids to learn. Charm City Virtual has lots of in-person events and things you can do to make your kids more safe on websites.
It may not be considered the traditional style of learning, but it has changed our family's lives and many others' lives.
My daughter has attended Charm City Virtual since she was in the 2nd grade. I've noticed that she has blossomed into a much more sociable person since she's been in Charm City Virtual.
She is blossoming into a lifelong learner. My children are fully engaged because they see how important having a quality education is. They value education because I value education.
It is imperative that we keep Charm City Virtual open because our kids and all the other children should be afforded the opportunity.
This program should continue because it works. It is fully functional. This program works for all ages, especially the elementary. I know. I have a 2nd grader.
Charm City Virtual is amazing. I love it. My daughter loves it. I just would hate to see it end.
Allow our children to continue to soar. Provide them with the opportunity to learn in a setting where their needs can be met. Let's invest in their future because our children need the unwavering support, the consistency, and the stability. We owe it to them. Thank you.
We love Charm City Virtual!
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Kathleen Leah, and this is also on Charm City Virtual, and this will be an email that will be read. Please consider the children and the continuity of their remarkable progress. Charm City Virtual is an amazing educational platform that serves my family and others very well. They have reached out to us and inquired what we needed in order for my children to be more successful. I have received food bags, free legal advice, duffel bags filled with all of the required school supplies per grade, sporting goods, and technology. The impact of the village has been positively tremendous. My children have perfect attendance and excellent grades. The dedication of Principal Casagrande and her staff is to be commended, not threatened with closure. This model should be studied, supported, and properly funded because it works very well. There is flexibility, less distractions, safety, order, and more learning. My daughter, 5th grader, and son, 2nd grader, are thriving and growing into lifelong learners. I am proud of them and their educational accomplishments. Moreover, my daughter relies on her nurturing teachers. She even considers them besties that she can confide in about anything. I like that. Unfortunately, she experienced several traumatic events inside city schools and now feels that no one kept her safe. Through therapy and care, she is blossoming. I appreciate the staff's gentle ways. Kudos to the CCV team for being so incredibly supportive. Now she's less anxious and pensive. My son does not know and learning and has developed into a Johns Hopkins CTY scholar. The teachers provide him with extra instruction 3 times a week. He also receives special ed services, speech services, twice a week. That's Charm City Virtual. There are also breakout rooms to provide extra assistance and practice. Several times a week, personalized support in reading and math are given. There are ample brain breaks, numerous opportunities to shake out your wiggles. Every few weeks, in-person social events take place at the PDC. We sometimes attend because we look forward to seeing and hugging the necks of the people who inspire us the most. We're winning. Charm City Virtual is our choice. Put our children first. Please and thank you kindly. Go class of 2031. Go class of 2034. From Kathleen Leah. Our next public comment is from Nathan Farrell, and this will be a video, and this is for it's a teacher, community member, public outreach and community relations committee.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Farrell, and I'm sharing my concerns on behalf of the Public Outreach and Community Relations Committee, which has members from the Baltimore Teachers Union and Local 44. We thank the board for honoring our request for training the 52 district hired hall monitors. We hope the district prioritizes student safety by offering more training for hall monitors and student support staff. Tonight, our committee comes with 3 requests. First, our committee asks the board to gather guidance on the policies and practices around safety drills in schools. As educators, we know that emergency procedures have to be practiced. A broad concern by our members, students, and communities is that city schools lack standard procedures and training materials for school leaders, educators, and students to use to understand how to conduct emergency drills at a school during or in advance of a threatening event or impending violence. With high staff turnover, persistent vacancies, and various contractors working in schools, we need support with standard emergency training guides for school-based drills and emergency protocols. Second, we continue to request the need for an emergency preparedness day after a serious violent event, such as a school shooting, stabbing, or other violent incident in a school community. An emergency preparedness day after a violent event allows us to, number 1, train support staff, 2, implement a return plan for the school, and 3, ensure the well-being of the school staff to face the next day. After experiencing extreme violence, students operate in fight or flight mode the following day and often the next day after. Young people in survival mode are not rational. After an extreme violent event, morale among staff plummets. Staff and students are in turmoil over what happened. An emergency preparedness day gives students' minds and their bodies a reprieve. It gives leadership time to actually plan for students' return. The BTU made a similar request on March 28th to this board on the school tragedy response, and this board rejected it. We continue to ask the board to speak with educators. Ask us how an emergency preparedness day after an extreme violent event would support staff and students of a school community. Our proposal does not cost any money. Our proposal is student-centered and is rooted in wellness, restorative response, and trauma-informed practices. The issue of school safety and school tragedy is difficult and complex, and it must be addressed thoughtfully. Last, we request that the board advises district staff to immediately cease the practice of contacting our principals and supervisors when we sign up for public comment. This request comes after a member of our committee was contacted by their principal and told not to give public comment at a board meeting. The principal was made aware of the public comment by the board staff. We look forward to the board's collaboration and response around these issues. Thank you.
I want to be clear that it is not the board staff that is doing that, so we will follow up to see what's going on. But that happened a couple of times tonight. It was made, it bubbled up. I just want to be clear, it's not the board office staff that's doing that. So we'll follow up to figure out what's happening. But thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. All right. Our next comment is from Denise Bitterman, and this is on contract negotiations, and this again is an email to be read. My written comment is Baltimore City Schools has indicated that lead and model employees will revert back to a traditional pay scale, which indicates that these individuals will experience a pay cut under the new contract. This would affect related service providers in a very real way. We are underappreciated, disrespected, overworked, etc. The nature of our job is ever growing, and we are asked each year to add to our list of responsibilities. We need to be compensated competitively. If the city implements this pay cut to the lead and model teachers and clinicians, the city will experience a large amount of employees seeking alternate Alternative employment. The city cannot afford a mass exodus of clinicians. The nation is experiencing a shortage of clinicians. So the city needs highly qualified clinicians and teachers who make a difference in the lives of students. As related service providers, we are not eligible for National Teacher Board certification. We need to be able to advance our careers. We need to maintain our current salaries. We need to be respected and compensated for our hard work. We need to be a big part of the conversation about the new contract. We cannot be left behind. The city needs us. Please hear our voices. That is Denise Fitterman. Our next public comment is live virtually, and this is from Sarah Lewis Levi, and the topic is current model applicant.
Hello, members of the school board. Oh. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Am I good? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you. Hello, members of the school board, staff, and community. My name is Sarah Lewis Levy, and I am a visual art teacher at Thomas Jefferson Elementary Middle School, and I'm a model applicant. As you are probably aware, the negotiations around the new pay scale and contract for teachers creates an unfortunate situation for the model applicant cohort. I hope that through my account, you will understand how the impact of the current salary uncertainty for current model applicants like myself. Okay. The current Baltimore City career pathway system establishes certain opportunities for teachers. Teachers on the professional pathway can qualify for the model pathway by joining the model cohort and submitting an extensive portfolio. If city schools is deciding to abolish the model system, then they should grandfather in us, the current cohort. The model application process is a huge commitment on top of a teacher's regular professional responsibilities. City schools actively promoted the compensation level changes for teachers who have entered the model, who enter model status. We are just about halfway through the school year. I have already collected 90 pages of artifacts and annotations for the artifacts, and I'm not even halfway done with my portfolio. I have already organized and recorded a 45-minute teaching video, and I have already attended multiple training sessions with my cohort. Each time we applicants have asked how the negotiations will affect our process, and each time our facilitators continue to encourage us to do our work. When a system changes, professionals caught in midstream should be grandfathered in. How can Baltimore City Schools expect teachers to strive high if the established criteria and compensation is held before them, but then taken away after they have worked hard to earn it? Thank you for your consideration. Please follow through with the model teacher program and compensation for our cohort this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Our last public comment is from Molly Leibovich, and this will be another email read. Topic is salary and pay scale. From Molly, my concern is that speech language pathologists and all related service providers should be included in the pay scale pathways and salary increases, just as general educators and special educators are. Thank you. And that is all for public comment.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners, based on public comment, would you like to pull additional items from the consent agenda? Any items? Thank you. There are 3 committee reports. There was the Operations Committee, which met on the 21st of November. Same with policy and teaching and learning met on December 5th. Vice Chair, is there a report from the Operations Committee?
Thank you, Chair McFadden. For the sake of time, there are a number of procurement items on tonight's agenda that were favorably reviewed in committee. I would draw the public's attention to our discussion around the 2025 budget development cycle that was coupled with Kerwin considerations. And there was also a very lovely presentation, or two very lovely presentations, compliance presentations around ADG sustainability, around the great green efforts taking place throughout the system, as well as ECAE around school police. That concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Esposito, is there a report from the Policy Committee?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, we reviewed policy ADF, which was wellness, nutrition, and physical safety, and we had a compliance report review. And our next meeting is going to be December 19th, where we're going to be looking at ACA, AKA, JFA, JFBC, JFC, KIB, JFD, and BCA.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Commissioner Slater-Harrington, is there a report from the Teaching and Learning Committee?
Good evening. I actually have two report outs. Teaching and Learning met on November 7th with Chair McFadden, Commissioner Bay, and myself. A fine arts presentation highlighted the commitment to integrate arts, align with board priorities, and diversify funding for city schools. A curriculum management plan was presented as a comprehensive guide for curriculum-related activities. Compliance report covered behavior and discipline data, emphasizing trends and justifications and demographics related to suspensions. A notable increase in short-term suspensions were attributed to the implementation of a new code of conduct. And overall, we just had a robust discussion and some pretty in-depth presentations. Teaching and Learning convened again on December 5th, focusing on math and literacy goals. In math, there's a noteworthy 2-year growth in math proficiency post-pandemic. Our improvement plan features priorities like strong first teach, high quality instructional strategies, and family engagement. And our literacy plan, our presentation included a note that we've demonstrated the highest ELA proficiency in almost a decade, consistent literacy improvement over 5 testing administrations, and improvement plans include the enactment of a literacy theory of action, expertise in literacy content and instruction, targeted support for language and literacy, and enhanced family and community engagement as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Lawson, do we have any updates from our student commissioner?
Thank you, Chair McFadden. We do. For the sake of time, I'm going to try to condense them. I had my first school visit as a school board commissioner at Emerson Westside High School, where I got the chance to sit in on their bi-weekly SGA meeting. We discussed really important topics they discuss important topics to their school community. These leaders highlighted attendance issues in their school and also providing solutions to their administration with cool, fun school-wide incentives for all students, not just singling out students who may have issues getting to school. Specifically, I would like to shout out Angelo Duke and Dasani Davis, Angelo being the secretary of the class of 2024, Dasani being the president of class of 2025. We got the chance to speak one-on-one. I got the chance to speak one-on-one with these leaders where we discussed school safety, the importance of student voice and professional development for teachers, and ways to engage students throughout the district. And I think I can bring some of those concerns to both policy committee and safety and wholeness. Also, I would like to give a special shout out to their advisor, Ms. Falcon, for welcoming me to our classroom, and Ms. Haley Tilt for attending this meeting with me. I would also like to announce that I had my first MASC, Maryland Association of Student Congresses, Student Council, fall conference. This is a chance for me to meet with SMOBs from across the state. And I'm really proud to announce that Baltimore City is doing a great job in student advocacy. We are light years ahead of our fellow counties, and I really just wanted to lift that up tonight and share that we are doing a remarkable job in student voice. To end my remarks tonight, I would like to highlight that I had a meeting with Maryland Interim Superintendent, Dr. Carrie Wright, where we discussed one of my favorite topics, which is arts integration and also special education and what that can look like in Maryland schools and how we can move the needle forward. So thank you so much, Chair McFadden, and that concludes my remarks tonight.
That's great, Commissioner Lawson. You literally jumped right in to the work. And I love how you are immediately tying your visits, and the work that you're doing already into the committees that you serve on. Thank you for that. Also, I just want to remind you that Baltimore City is the only jurisdiction that has a student commissioner and not a SMOB. I know it's nice for y'all to say like we're SMOBs, right? But you're the student commissioner. It's very unique to Baltimore City. You also have an announcement to make about a college situation. That's really big for me. So make that announcement for us, please.
So yesterday I found out that I was accepted into one of my top schools, which is Morehouse College.
Hey.
And what else, Commissioner Lawson?
And I also got a pretty good scholarship from the school as well. So I'd like to lift that up tonight.
Baltimore is proud of you. We are certainly proud of you. Congratulations for that. We had to make sure he announced that tonight because that's a really big deal for us. With that, is there a motion to approve is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater-Harrington. Is there a second?
Second, Sally.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. All in favor? Vice Chair Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington?
Yes.
And I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now go back to item 5.01, information and discussion with policy KDA, access to public records, and JRA, maintenance and release of student records. This addresses revisions to state law. This is the first reader. I have a few presentations this evening. I know that you all are going to hit the high points for us. Commissioners, please make sure that you just reserve your questions for the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. How are you doing? Hi, I'm Andre Riley, the Executive Director. Oh, there we go. Hi, I'm Andre Riley, the Executive Director of Communications for the district, along with
Lyle Monroe, Record Manager.
Yes, and we're here to discuss changes to the way we handle our open records via two policies. Policy KDA, which is access to public records, and policy JRA, which is the maintenance and release of student records. These policies combined form the backbone of how we respond to open records requests. So we're going to update those changes, which are coming in the wake of changes to Maryland law. So this will bring us into compliance. So we just want to hit a few high notes. No, I got it. Okay, both of these changes align with Board Priority 6, which you see here on the screen. Next, I want to update the work that we've made to respond to public records requests. Now, this is a team effort. It's the Office of Communications along with the Office of the Chief Legal Counsel, with Human Capital, with all of our major departments. We work together to make certain that our school district remains compliant and transparent. As you can see from the chart, we saw a sharp increase in the number of requests that we received between FY22 and FY23. For the most part, we resolved nearly all 200 open records requests. There's still 7 that will just take time to respond to, or we've begun responding to them, and we still have work to do based on different responses. This chart is a categorization of our public records request. Far and away, we get more requests for finance-related items, whether it be responses to bids, salary records, anything that has to do with the district's finances will fall under that category. We've also seen a sharp uptick in accident reports. Whenever there's a vehicular accident or that type of matter, we've seen more of those, largely from one source. This chart details where our requests come from by requester category. However, just to be clear, while we have different categories, they're not all submitting at the same rate. For instance, while media makes up 19% of our total of the requester data, far and away they have a much larger percentage of our total request. Now, again, I mentioned earlier that there have been changes to Maryland law and we need to update our policies to comply with those. A new Maryland law, HB 636, went into effect in October. It prompts us to ensure that our policies are clear and they align with COMAR. This chart, this slide is just some general updates about the steps that we have taken. HB 636 has altered the definition of personal information to include an individual's email address, and it requires custodians to deny inspection of those records under certain circumstances, which we'll cover in a little bit. Additionally, changes to the law require us to deny any records that provide the home address, home phone number, personal email address, and personal information about a student. And HB 636 aligns with both FERPA and existing state law. The goals of our updates to both KDA and JRA are again to align with changes to Maryland law that went into effect in October. We want to highlight student directory information that can be shared through the MPIA process, and we want to revise KRA to align with some of our best practices to help us to become more efficient. This slide outlines some of the changes, again, that were made to Maryland law that we want to align with. Again, we talk about who's a custodian, who represents an elected official. These are largely just our legal definitions that we have to abide by. Now I'm going to pass the microphone to Lyle.
Thank you, Andre. So COMAR defines directory information to include student names, addresses, telephone listings, etc. We have an opt-out form for parents for the release of directory information, which is a part of the annual verification process. This provides alignment with FERPA so that we are in compliance with the law. The family guide also describes the information that we may release and cites the opt-out form and FERPA. And we recommend revising JRA Section 2G and Section 2L to clarify when directory information can be shared and who it can be shared with to align with House Bill 636. So our proposed revisions to JRA are to align regulation with updated guidance on the processing of subpoena, to clarify the categories of information that City School designates as directory information, to highlight when City Schools may disclose or allow the inspection of home addresses, telephone numbers, and personal email addresses of a student, and to explain the nuances of directory information and the subcategories that are not considered directory information.
Changes to state law also impact the information that we're able to share about our public employees. It limits our ability to share the personal information of an employee, including their telephone number and their personal email address, unless the employee gives us explicit permission to do so. And it also helps us to determine whether that inspection is needed for the public interest. Many times we'll receive an open records request, and the requester will say, well, I should have this information in the public interest. But one could argue that sharing an employee's personal information is definitely not in the public interest. So the changes to state law gives us the greater ability to support where we stand on this issue. Other revisions to both KDA and its regulation are that all requests for student information must align with state law and board policies, LCA and JRA. Again, we want to clarify that we cannot release your home address, personal telephone number, or personal email address, well, those of employees, except with few very limited exceptions. Again, one being that we get permission from the employee. And we want to clarify that individuals have 15 working days to respond to our request for additional information. Many times we will see an open records request, and for us to respond effectively, we'll reach back out to the requester and say, can you provide more information? Can you be more clear? Now we want to put in stone, you have 15 days to get back to us and to let us either provide that information or provide additional clarity, or we will close your request. Again, this helps us to become more efficient and to better affect our ability to respond to open records requests. An additional revision to policy KDA regards fee waivers. Fee waivers are instances where we will be asked to turn over an open record, and we will come back to you and say, well, the cost for us to find that record under the MPIA process after the first 2 hours of work, there's a cost to the district, and we feel like we should be able to recover that. And then we will sometimes have the requester come back to us and say, well, may I have a fee waiver? Because again, this is in the public interest. Well, there was a large legal case involving the Baltimore Police Department and Open Justice Baltimore that's really guided the thinking statewide on this issue. In late 2019 and 2020, Open Justice Baltimore filed several requests with BPD for complaints about police misconduct and investigations into the Police Department's Special Investigation Response Team. BPD denied those fee waiver requests and assessed more than $245,000 in fees. Predictably, that led to a lawsuit by filed by Open Justice Baltimore against the Baltimore Police Department that said even though BPD can assess fees, their denial of a waiver was arbitrary, and the case went all the way to the Supreme Court in Maryland. So how does that impact Baltimore City Public Schools and how we handle our own fee waivers? Our revisions to KDA's regulation first state that requests for fee waivers are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. We don't want to limit ourselves to we have to handle it one way or another. Every request is an individual matter. So we want to make certain that we're reviewing each request on its individual merits, and that we will always let you know if there's a reason for denial if one is required. The decision to waive a fee is the CEO's designee, not the chief legal officer. And finally, we will provide requesters with an opportunity to narrow the scope of their request to reduce any assessed fees. And that's something we do quite often. With different groups, they will give us a broad request, we will review that request, and then we will then assess fees. And those fees can be in the thousands of dollars. And we want to help our community, so we'll say, perhaps you can revise your request. Many times we're able to do that. We're able to lower the fee request, if not outright remove it, and we're able to move forward. But again, we want to provide clarity in the regulation to be able to do that. When we waive fees, we weigh a couple of different things. Number one, the ability of the applicant to pay the fee. researching records can be quite expensive, but it's not a bludgeon to punish people or to otherwise make it difficult for folks to get information that the school district should be able to provide. So we weigh the ability of an individual to pay that fee, again, on a case-by-case basis. We also weigh whether the disclosure of those records are of a benefit to the public. One person may want that document, but we may also know that several people may have similar requests either in the moment or in the future. So if we believe that there's a public benefit, we will waive the fee and provide those documents and make them available, usually by simply posting them on our website. We weigh the cost to city schools. For us to research records and to find records, there's a cost in staff time, in the use of our technology, and other factors. We want to make certain that we're being fair to the school district as well, knowing that this costs money, taxpayer money. And again, in relation to number 4, the burden of employees to comply with the requests. Again, we want to be transparent, but we also have other duties and we need to balance that accordingly. As we began to explore changes to both KDA and JRA, we conducted stakeholder engagement with the individuals you can see here on the screen. We did not receive any substantive edits or feedback from those stakeholders prior to the first reader, which is tonight. And the timeline is tonight is the first reader. And if all goes well, on January 9th, we'll return to the board for a second reader. And we will make these changes to our policy, become more compliant with Maryland law, and provide an open, transparent process for our community. And that is our presentation. Are there any questions I can help you with? I also have our chief legal officer and other individuals who can help. Yeah, not here by myself.
Thank you. Any questions from board colleagues or clarifying thoughts? Thank you very much for this first reader. We look forward to second reader in January.
Thank you kindly.
We'll now hear a presentation on the annual review of schools 23-24 recommendations, requests for virtual schools.
Good evening. I'm Angela Alvarez. I'm the Senior Executive Director for the Office of New Initiatives, and I'm joined by
Dawn Shirey, Director of Virtual Learning and Instructional Technology.
Senior Second. All right, so we're here to present on a request to change a program into a school. This aligns to board priority number 6, where we're increasing the number of educational programming in our district. We are here tonight presenting it for information. We will have a hearing where members of the community can testify on January 11th. And then the board will vote on January 23rd. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn.
Yes, it's important to note that we do have a recommendation for the board tonight, but there is a decision that has already been made for items that are in the purview of the CEO with the recommendation of the CAO. And that we're going to share a little bit about that because that is in response to the grade of that program/school. So we'll go through the following slides around what was considered and what the actual recommendation is versus what the decision is that is made by those that have the authority to do so. So the first is that the recommendation is to convert the virtual learning program into a virtual learning school. And again, 6 through 12 is what we're asking, and we're going to share those considerations in the following slides, including this slide, because there is a decision to take the current 2 programs, 2nd through 8th and 9th through 12th, and move to 1 program, grades 6 through 12, and then recommending to convert that program into a school. So one piece is that there was a work group, a cross-functional work group that really put a lot of thought into this decision because it really was difficult. We are looking at a very strong school community, as you saw tonight. So we really need and 2 strong school communities and really need to think about a variety of factors. So let's start with the beginning. As was mentioned earlier, this was in response to the pandemic. So the 3 programs at the time were formed in 21-22. And there were originally 3 programs, 2 elementary and 1 high school. And they were in response to the pandemic. And they were using and continue to use mostly ESSER funds, which are emergency relief funds due to the pandemic. For next year, again, we are looking at 1 single program for grades 6 through 12 starting next school year, and taking the current 2nd through 4th grade students and having them be enrolled back in their home school or a school that is identified by their parents through a process through enrollment choice and transfer to really find a school that meets the needs of their students. So again, really looking at a variety of factors here. And one of those key pieces in terms of program versus school is that schools are eligible for funding that programs are not. And those key funding pieces are specialized funding like Title I funds, like concentration of poverty funds. Now, the school would have to qualify for that. Their students and their population would have to meet the criteria, but they are eligible and a program is not. Hence, one of the main reasons for the recommendation to allow for that additional funding, especially since the ESSER funding is sunsetting at the end of this year. The current programs do provide a variety of access for students. There is access to, even though students are learning from home, they still have the ability to gain meals if needed. They still have the ability to get health services as needed, and additional other resources. And that would remain if the program was moved to a school. And in fact, that is state law. And so that's part of Senate Bill 610, which has been put into effect most recently in July of this year. And it really defines more the parameters of virtual learning as well as virtual schools. So one of the big things that we looked at was different grade bands, and we looked at estimated budgets for various grade bands. Estimated budgets without ESSER funds, because those funds would be moving away. Those funds are sunsetting, as I said earlier. And even when a program moves to a school, if that is approved, it takes time before the additional funds come into play because you have to have student population and data from that population to see if the school would qualify for those funds. So looking at those estimated budgets, we looked at a variety of grade bands, and the only grade band where we did not see a large deficit was grades 6 through 12. All other grade band configurations showed a large deficit in funding, which will really make it unsustainable for us to move forth with a robust program. It's also important to note that we would continue to provide in the school, if that recommendation were approved, services to students that need the service, right? You heard that in the variety of testimony tonight, that there are students that apply. So the programs are application criteria. Students apply and are accepted into the program. And then there also are special considerations, students that are accepted into the program outside of that criteria for a variety of reasons. Some of those reasons are ongoing health concerns. Some of those reasons are safety reasons, and some of those are things like protective orders. There are just a variety of reasons why students are in the program. The other piece, as we looked at these different grade bands, and again, primarily we're initially looked at, all right, the funding is there for us, right? We know that we need to be able to sustain. We really believe in virtual learning. You've heard it time and again tonight that we have students that excel in that environment. So we want to be able to continue a robust plan. Where can we do that? We do believe that's in grades 6 through 12. The funding is a key piece, but we also know that our elementary students do need more hands-on opportunities. They do learn those foundational skills in literacy, math, and also socialization, right? They're learning how to interact with one another. And they do that by really having an opportunity to observe their teacher and each other, and by participating in hands-on experiences. Now that can be done in a virtual setting, but it takes a lot more resourcing to do that. It takes more staff, it takes more hands-on materials, which are sent home to students. And when you think about that for a virtual program, it's sent home to every single student because they're in their own environment. With the sunsetting of these funds, those additional resources just aren't available. The other piece that's important in moving to a school versus a program is data. So currently, students in the program, their data is officially reported to the state in terms of attendance as well as standardized assessments as part of what is considered their zoned or home school. So in our reports to the state, we don't report Port or Charm City because they are programs. So their data is not reported to the state in that manner. In moving to a school versus a program, it would be reported for that school and it would be official data. Now the staffs at both programs look at data, right? They're not necessarily looking at official data because there's additional level of cleansing that happens here in our Office of Achievement and Accountability, but they are looking at the data they have available to them. It does take them a little more to get that data, right? It's not as clean as what we got from a district perspective, but they are really looking at that data and analyzing it. We want them to be able to do that as a school more effectively and in that ability to report it to the state. The other piece we really had to look at was enrollment, because as you know, enrollment drives numbers, drives budget. In the annual review process, every year we take a look particularly at small schools. And small elementary schools or any school below 300, we really have to look at that school, right? Because it's just more challenging to provide all the staffing needed, all the additional resources and supports needed for any school under 300. If you look at this data chart, you'll see that the elementary program currently is well under 200. It's extremely small for a program or school.
Anytime there's a change that impacts students, we try to understand what those impacts are. So the CEO and CEO are listening to families and the letters and testimony you heard today. The other thing we wanted to understand is like, where are children coming from? So this map is just showing you the distribution of students. So they live across the city with the majority of students coming from the Southwest, but it's pretty much, as you can see, evenly split across the city. In terms of students in grades 2nd through 4th, who would be impacted by the change that's going to be occurring. The other thing to note for students, because when you're within a program, you're already enrolled in a school. So any student that is part of a program is also enrolled in another school. So for 2nd through 4th grade, they're enrolled in their neighborhood school. And so those students would be able to, as Dawn shared earlier, just stay with that school without having to take any additional steps if they're interested in that school. There will be work that the Office of Enrollment and Choice and Transfer will support in the early spring around supporting families and finding the right placement that meets their student needs and meets all the different considerations. And so that'll be a next step that'll start in March. Additionally, students will be eligible for transportation support. So for students choosing to attend their neighborhood school who live more than a mile from that school, those students will be eligible for transportation support. For students with disabilities who have transportation as a related service on their IEP, they would be able to have transportation support, as well as students who fit into certain categories. For example, some students who are homeless get specialized transportation, or students who have other kinds of needs may get specialized transportation. And so that is everything, as I shared at the start. This request to change the program in the school. So members of the community who wish to testify about that will be able to sign up on January 11th. Directions for how to do that is on the website and has been provided to members of the community. And the board will vote on January 23rd. And there was an issue with the website. It has been corrected. So that was flagged. So just so that it's clear for everybody.
Thank you. There any questions or clarifying thoughts from board colleagues for staff? Commissioner Esposito.
I have a question about like academic improvements. Like, do we know how many students actually did better during the pandemic as opposed to in-person learning? And part of the reason why I asked that, like as somebody on this board that would not have a college degree if it weren't for virtual learning pre-pandemic, like I do see that there is a legitimate need for students to have an accessible education environment.
So one piece to note is that, again, we don't have official data. We only have unofficial data because of the nature of how students are, they're assigned to their home school, but we do have unofficial data. And when we look at unofficial data, the elementary students performed lower than the district average slightly in English and slightly higher than the district average in math. Go ahead.
It's also slightly below in math. I think the difference there, but the unofficial data is elementary students perform from a proficiency basis, perform slightly better than the middle and high school students.
In literacy only.
So if we know that this population of students likely has more students with disabilities, is it fair to compare them to other schools? Because I'm asking more of like an individual student, like how did they perform like pre-pandemic and did they thrive in like the virtual environment?
That's a good question. I think Commissioner Esposito, that's something we have to look to see if we can pull that data. It's complex because of the fact that they're not at school. So to even get the unofficial data, that had to be done by hand by OIA. So there may be some complexity in being able to answer that specific question. In terms of the students with disability population, we don't have how it compares to district average, but for those elementary grades, their last year was about 7.8%. I think that is probably below or similar to the district average, but we can confirm that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Coy.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation and walking through. Obviously, it's there are no easy decisions in situations. I really also appreciate, so I want to say thank you to those that from public comment and that are here in the room showing your support for this. Couple questions that I do have. First, you referenced a work group that made the recommendation that reviewed it. Could you tell me a little bit about the composition of that working group and share a little bit more details about that?
So there were a variety of stakeholders in that work group that had information about how both programs operated, both currently and historically.
When you say stakeholders, are you like families?
It was not families, it was district staff.
Okay, so it's for school-based staff.
It was a combination.
Another question that I have is when it relates to the elementary, middle, high school ages or grades, is it possible to include elementary grades in the new proposed school? In other words, is the limiting factor cost?
So one of the primary factors is cost, because again, when looking at configurations that had the lower grades, it was large deficits of funding. So but then there are also components where we look at, and part of that is not only are there large deficits of funding, but then in implementing an elementary program with, the large numbers of staff you would need, as well as being able to send home items. There's a lot that is sent home for the elementary program. You have a deficit and then a huge need beyond just a regular, what you would need for high school students, given all the items that are sent home. So it's shipping costs, all those types of things.
And if you go back to the slide that has the enrollment, one question I had in looking at that, I mean, and sometimes when a new school is opened, there's sort of a sequential opening of one grade at a time. One question that I had is, would it be possible, is there a scenario in which all students currently in the program could continue through the course, right? You see that's sort of naturally occurring to some degree in the numbers. Would it be possible to phase out and allow for the students that are currently in the program to remain through the point at which they're then in 6th grade and could continue on?
Yeah, to do that, there would need to be large amounts of additional funding. And again, with the challenges, I think one of the pieces to really think about is what was stated at the beginning of the board meeting, that with the funding that the district is losing through ESSER, we really have to look at the limited discretionary funds. So it is something that could be considered, but it is making that choice over other components for the district in terms of funding.
Yeah, I would certainly be interested in seeing what the funding for that would look like, and recognizing that it would be for probably 2 years or so in a way. So I appreciate that in the presentation tonight.
Yes, Commissioner Lawson.
In your presentation, I believe you said something about like elementary school students like needing to be in the classroom, or there's a need to be in the classroom. Is there any data from our students that like suggests that? Or is there any data that I can see that suggests that?
So what I'll refer back to again is that there is a need for hands-on, more personalized approach, right? We've heard that over and over again, and it can be done in a virtual setting, but there's a lot more resourcing needs. So I just want to emphasize that. And then again, the data that we would reference is the unofficial numbers that we've already talked about, where students are on standardized assessments in those elementary grades are slightly below the district average, whereas in those upper grades, this is ELA primarily, or the numbers are the most, the biggest, that our middle and high school, they're above the district average. So looking at that data, it would suggest that, this is more conducive for those 6 to 12 grade students. And again, we're looking at unofficial data. So I just want to preface that.
Thank you.
I want to hold space and say that I can appreciate this whole notion is difficult for everyone involved. Now I'm wondering why I don't have a fan blowing. Okay, never mind. I want to just say I can appreciate, I'm looking at everyone, how difficult this is for those who have led the committee to kind of arrive here, but also for families who could be anticipating a disruption, and educators and everyone involved. This is never the conversation that we want to have, but we've arrived here. And I'm curious about, I hear all of the rationale, but the primary being around the financial decision to operate a school or operate this particular age band and at a deficit. And so let's just venture down the path of what happens when schools operate at a deficit. What could we be looking at with this virtual program if it operates at a deficit? I think it's fair then for everyone to weigh that and make an informed decision about what it could look like if that were the case.
Yeah, it means that resources that are cut. So you would have less staffing. You might have less ability to offer all the electives you should have. You have right now, I think they have a high number of like paraeducators who support doing pull-out. They would have less ability to afford that. They would have less dollars to support. So Dawn's reference early on about the fact that the elementary students get like individualized kits to help them do some of their learning at home. There wouldn't be dollars to be able to support that kind of thing at the level that's been happening currently. So you would see a cut in the ability to do all those things when schools don't have the funding. They're having to make hard decisions around, do I have this or do I have that? So some of the things that the families have been accustomed and to having because of the ESSER funds, with ESSER sunsetting, it's over this summer. There's not going to be dollars to support on that level. So enrollment continues to be really important, even as a 612 within the school. But you need more supply. You're more heavy on supplies and staffing for the elementary students in some ways because of those unique needs of those students.
Commissioner Sally.
Thank you. So two questions come to mind for me. So one, thinking about a school that's transitioning from a program to a full school, given what you've described as kind of a unique context of learners, learning needs, et cetera, et cetera. And you may not have an answer for this today, but I would be really curious to know and what the public could expect for what a school improvement plan would look like for a unique school in year one, so that we know that this school can thrive and that they have the resources, that they're addressing the things that are really important to support these learners in the community. So that may not be a question that you have an answer for today, but it's something that's just top of mind that would be helpful for the public to know what to kind of expect. I also think a little bit about the configuration is a little bit unique from 6 to 12. I don't know how many of those schools that we have in the district and in the state of Maryland. And so that's also a consideration for me to think about that being really, really unique in terms of how we're measuring student learning across a wide band right there. And how do we really support a principal and a leader, an academic team in those buildings in terms of understanding their data and how well students are progressing over time. On a separate question, this wasn't really sure, is this school in particular, would this be part of our annual portfolio review, or are they part of the traditional school portfolio?
Well, the annual review is about all schools. And so the request, and to be clear, there are a number of questions I think are important, and we're going to answer those questions. We're folding in this recommendation around this request to change a program into a school into annual review. So that's why they'll be able to participate in the hearing that's coming up on January 11th, and it'll be voted on as part of that longer presentation on January 23rd.
Okay, and I'm not asking just for my information, but I want to make sure the public is very clear about what to expect. So
yeah,
so that's very helpful to clarify that.
I also want to respond generally to the school improvement plan comment.
So while I wouldn't be able to get into specifics in terms of specific strategies at this time, because we'll be looking at 2 grade bands that are currently in separate programs coming together in one program, or if the recommendation is approved, one school, we would be looking at ELA, right? How do we continue to grow in that area? Math, which is a lower rate for both programs currently, attendance, and also graduation rate. The graduation rate right now, again, unofficial data for the high school, is well above the district average, but continuing to grow that rate. So all of those areas would be really important to the 612 program, or if approved, 612 school.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
I have a couple of questions that just that seem to bother me right now. First of all, I mean, we knew when we formed this program that ESSER funds were not a panacea forever. And so did we not make plans for continuation? One. Number two, the vulgarity of data, when that bothers me, because we do maintain data on each individual student, because each individual student we receive monies for. And so therefore we track. Is there any way we can strengthen that information? Because to say that monies we knew were gone are running away is not a real strong argument in my book. Okay, so what did we plan to do to build this up into something that had some longevity or some legs, or was it planned obsolescence in there?
Yeah, I'm going to let Dawn answer the ESSER question. I just want to address the data question. So programs are not funded on a per pupil. For programs, the district has to use additional or other resources to fund programs, right? So they're not per pupil funded. The students' data, because they're enrolled in other schools, and so for elementary and middle students, that's whatever their neighborhood zone school would be. For high school students, it's currently Digital Harbor High School. Their data actually shows up as part of that school. And as you saw, students are coming from all over. So it's a lot of schools, where maybe 1 kid or 2 kids showing up in those counts. And so for programs, that's one of the challenges when you have a program, because students are actually officially enrolled somewhere else. Our systems, our data systems are very much driven by school number. Everything kind of operates off of school number. And so our team between OAA and OIT has to do workarounds for the school to actually be able to have and track student data. So they do workarounds, but it's not official. So it's not clean data. It's not going through the testing and checking that OAA does for schools. The individual data, I'm sure, is because it's part of the official school, but you're pulling from a lot of different places to pull it together. So it adds some complexity there. So they're not, it's not the same as a school. It's just not. There's challenges with it, and there's limitations in terms of our system to be able to handle and cluster the program data in a way that would allow, that's one of the important things about turning it to a school. It would allow the school leader and the school team to actually make long-term plans into the future as a school, and not just, sort of checking on individual and making sure individual progress. Both things are important, that individual progress, but also how are we progressing as a school? And I'm sure the program principals do that to the best of their ability, but there's some limitations in not having clean data and not having true comparative data to other schools to see really how are we doing as a school community. It's more anecdotal, more individualized in terms of how they're understanding their data.
In terms of the budget question, what I will say, and again, I'm going to give you the information that I know as of now, and we'll do some research and come back, but originally there were 3 programs. So they were originally planned for 3, and it was at a time when we were just coming out of the pandemic. So I think part of it was we thought there would be more of a need. As the numbers and the enrollment was smaller, we moved down to 2 programs. And there was also a decision to begin to have some different grade bands than what we have now. So there were some younger grades originally. So as we're looking from that, just the numbers are much smaller than what originally planned for, which again, with those numbers is less funding, which is harder to provide, robust programming at the school level. So we'll go back and find out if there was another plan originally around the funding, but it was around enrollment. And again, it's not at the numbers that were originally planned.
Thank you.
What potential supports will be provided should we move forward with this for families and home and hospital options for some families some students that may experience health challenges that may qualify them for home and hospital? Are we looking into that? How are we planning for that? And how are we planning on making sure that that information is clear for families?
Yeah, so we're pulling the data to understand if at any point in the last 3 years, if students have been part of home and hospital. Also trying to understand other unique needs, other students who have like special cases. So that when we're working with ECT, there's really like an individualized process, especially to help the more vulnerable students. I think home and hospital is, it's a program that's growing and changing. So that would be part of our follow-up, is trying to understand what that support looks like today versus what it used to look like in the past, and making sure that we connect families that are eligible with that support. I just want to be clear, this is complex, so these things are happening at the same time, right? And so I just want to be clear about what part is before the board and what part is with the CEO and the CAO, who are also listening to families. And so the part that's with the board is program to school. That's it. Yes or no on changing a program into a school. Programs right now as exist are at the purview of the CEO. So just as Dawn shared, there were 3 programs, it changed to 2. Programmatic changes, the CEO and CAO make annual changes to programs because it's reliant on discretionary funds. It's reliant on, do we have enough funds to even support? So they need to be able to be flexible. The CEO and CAO are listening to families, they're receiving letters. The CAO participated in the community meetings on behalf of the CEO. So they're still in the posture of listening in terms of whether they change the decision that was made. But that the question of the grade bands or the combining of the programs is not before the board. The only thing before the board is program versus school.
I think we understand that, and I appreciate you all for reiterating that for the sake of the public. I just want to make sure that we are providing potential options and making sure that we're articulating clearly to families what is available as we're moving forward. Are there any additional questions as we have? Yes, Commissioner Coy.
And I think to your question, one thing that I heard in the presentation and can hear in some of the various community voices is the alternative of homeschool, right? And that we may lose students to that option. And I heard that in some of what was shared here. But just thinking about how demographics are changing broadly, and how can we be innovative in keeping options that families really want available is what I'm hearing.
Appreciate that, Commissioner Coy. Commissioner Esposito.
Oh, I guess my comment is like, if there is possibly a need more broadly for a virtual learning environment for the age groups that are not going to be moved into this new environment or the new school, is there an opportunity to possibly create like a conversion charter that addresses that need? Because the reason why I asked about the data is because even outside of the virtual learning environment, there could have been students that we've had in traditional schools, in-person schools, that actually thrived during the pandemic and then went back into the environment and you know, had like a deficit, either because like that's a very neurotypical lens or not in the way that they learned.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I think too there's been some confusion in the community about the process for I think people are wondering, like, if there was a application to convert it into a charter, would that bring forth additional resources? So it gives me the opportunity just for members of the public to answer both things, just on the record. So on the first part, on whether or not we can convert the virtual learning program into a charter school. My understanding, and I may need to like follow up to make sure this is correct. So this might not be accurate because there's new, as Dawn referenced, there's new law on this, but current charter law does not allow for virtual schools in the state of Maryland. So I need to look at that in the context of the new law to see if that changes anything. So that's the little thing. But my understanding from folks on my team who've looked at it is that it doesn't, that it's not allowable. I just want to reconfirm that. So that's the first part on that. The second thing is you need, if it were allowable, right, you would need an outside entity who would be applying. And, you know, charter schools can be started by community. And so that can happen. It wouldn't be a solution for the current moment that we're in. So when folks apply for charter, if the board approves them, there's a whole year where there's no funding before the school starts, right? It's the planning year. People apply sometimes to the state for federal startup funds, but those funds wouldn't like carry a staff. It wouldn't be able to continue a program. Those are funds that are, you know, not used for that. So I think that's the other piece. Like there's a gap between approval and when a school would open. So like for people who may be applying this year, they're if you approve them, they don't open 24-25. They open 25-26. 24-25 is a planning year. So there's a gap in that process. Additionally, the bulk of funds that charter schools operate on are school funds, right? So it's becoming a charter school, people do fundraising, but that's not, they mostly live and die by their school budget. Fundraising helps to have, you know, smaller additional programming at the school, but it doesn't like pay for the full program. It's really driven by school funds. So, you know, by making the program into school, it'd be eligible for Kerwin funds as well as like federal dollars. But it being a traditional school versus a charter school doesn't necessarily mean like that it'll have more funds.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing more information. And thank you to community members who've been sending information and submitting things. We're taking all of that into consideration as we're moving forward. So thank you all for your advocacy as well. We'll now hear a presentation on the operator waivers and cap requests.
Good evening. My name is Trevor Roberts. I'm a specialist in the Office of New Initiatives.
And I'm Angela Alvarez, the Senior Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives. And so Trevor is going to be presenting some cap requests we have before the board.
And these requests hit board priority 5 for providing equal access to district services, resources, and facilities to ensure the success of students, staff, and the surrounding community. And priority 6, increasing the number of educational programming of all types and levels throughout the city. Just a quick overview of the waiver request process. So charters and other operator-led schools can make waiver requests to the board for a variety of reasons. Some of those are to make waivers to district policies, make major changes to the academic or other programming of their schools, or to change their enrollment capacities. There are 2 windows that they can make this request each year. One is in the fall and one is in the spring. And for schools that go through that are going through the renewal process in a given year, they can make requests as part of their renewal application. When we receive requests, there are some key considerations that we look at, starting with the rationale for the school of how the change meets a school need, the evidence of demand for the requested change, stakeholder engagement that has been done by the school, the quality of the school programming, and the capacity of the school to implement the change in terms of facilities, staffing, and other considerations. Here we're looking at the timeline. So for the fall request window, requests have to be submitted by November 1st. Requests are vetted by the Office of New Initiatives and key departments within the district. Tonight we are requesting the board, presenting the requests to the board for information. In January, we will be presenting the requests also to the Charter and Operator-led Advisory Board to get their input and advice on the requests. And on January 23rd, the board will be making a vote on the requests. So tonight we only have one request. It is an enrollment capacity request from Baltimore International Academy West. Baltimore International Academy West is going to be a K-8 at full expansion. They are currently in their grade level expansion, so they'll be hitting full grade level next year. Their capacity, as you can see, for the following years is 1,000 students, but for the 23-24 school year, you can see that they are well under that capacity. So they are requesting a reduction in their cap to more accurately reflect where they are in their expansion plans. And next year, they're requesting 274 students and going up year by year through 28-29. Just some considerations that we'd like to give to the board for understanding the request. BIA West is currently in their first charter term after opening in 2019. It is a replication of Baltimore International Academy, which is a long-serving charter school on the northeast side of the city. The program is a pretty unique for Baltimore language immersion program, where they provide language immersion in multiple languages. As you can see from their enrollment, that's lower than their expectations. There have been some hiccups in expanding as quickly as they planned. First of those is that a lot of their expansion was happening during the COVID pandemic and virtual learning, when there wasn't as much expansion and enrollment as they were planning for. And also because they do have this unique language immersion program, when they open in a new part of the city, we just believe that it takes a little time for them to grow understanding and buy-in for that programming. But the school believes that this lowered enrollment request is more realistic and sustainable for them, and thinks that it will better match the interest in the program that they're seeing. One last thing I'd like to note is that the school is up for renewal this year. It is recommended for a 3-year renewal. And again, that is going to be voted on in January. Are there any requests or questions?
Are there any questions? Commissioner Reed?
I'm just curious one in terms of physical plan. Yeah, the building can take 1,000 kids, but is that any ramifications in terms of cost factors or the way you guys look at that by being 25% of the total capacity of the building?
Yeah, the building is probably more suited for a smaller student population in its current configuration. In order to support 1,000 students, it would need probably opening of wings of the building that are not currently in use. So we think that given the request for the lower enrollment levels, that it actually makes more sense in their facility. But we will provide more details on that prior to the vote.
The other thing I want to add is they're in a private facility. They're not in a district facility. So, you know, we're usually looking at utilization because we're responsible for capital improvements. In this case, they're completely responsible for their building. And so they're not getting, schools in private facilities are not eligible for like capital improvement or like the state fund. So that utilization doesn't.
I was worried about their cost factors. I mean, it's like.
I mean, it's cost factors for them, but
Right.
I will say, their original school also grew slower than they thought it would. And so, but they, you know, they got the capacity and were able to do, you know, renovations and add capacity. So this is a very, this is an operator that does have a lot of, you know, capacity, and you know, they've done this before in another facility. So it's not their first time having to manage those kind of costs.
Commissioner Coy?
In terms of setting the original goal, I recognize it was aspirational, but could you say a little bit about, I guess, how that was arrived at as the approved cap? It does seem like just a significant change from that, and while the current numbers as proposed make sense, I guess it makes the first numbers seem. I just want to know a little bit more about that history.
Yeah, so what you're not seeing in this presentation is the enrollment expansion that they were planning to do. So I believe when the application was first approved, for the first year, they were starting out with 400 students and then expanding from there over the years. 1,000 is where they wanted to end up after into their 6th year. So the original expansion didn't start at 1,000 is what I'd like to say. But it was, you know, obviously a little too ambitious probably. But because of the programming that they offer and the multiple languages that they offer, they had to make some changes to that because of the enrollment capacity. So the original expansion was based on the desire of the school to offer their full complement of languages from the beginning.
And so, like, for this chart that's up, you know, 24, 25 could read 400 and then 600, 800, and 1,000. Like, does it grows to 1,000, or it should have already grown to 1,000?
So their expectation was to be at 1,000 by 24, 25.
Understood. Okay, thank you. That's helpful to also understand some of the rationale around wanting to offer even more languages and the necessary sort of student population to justify those types of costs, as we talked about with small schools, some of the challenges that exist there.
Yeah, and they couldn't have predicted COVID. So, you know, they wrote that application before COVID. So I think they thought, you know, in 6 years it would be here. So it was just the other kind of piece to hold in mind.
Thank you to the team this evening. Thank you for the presentation. And this comes to the board in the future, at a future meeting.
Yeah, January 23rd.
January 9th. Thank you all. If there are any additional questions, please make sure that staff gets them so that they can be addressed. We're now going to move into the administration modernization implementation, AMP implementation. There's a presentation on AMP. We're going to move into that this evening. Thank you to the team. And good evening to the new team.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Courtney.
Courtney Desabé, Executive Director of Financial Systems and Operations. I'm joined by Sarah Abel, Director of HC Systems and Strategy. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about AMP, our Administrative Modernization Project, aka ERP project. A little bit of an update for the board.
AMP aligns with priority 3. So this is all about modernizing our systems, our infrastructure for our administrative services in the district. So that touches human capital, to OIT, and finance. So a brief refresher on what we're talking about. So when we talk about the ERP, it really touches 3 functional areas. Phase 1 is finance. So that's essentially all the dollars. So the entire financial infrastructure for the district we have replaced. And so Courtney will share an update about that. Phase 2 is budget. So that's our plan for how we account for every dollar coming in and every dollar going out across the district. Every single school, every single department, every dollar is accounted for through budget. Phase 3, and this is near and dear to my heart. So this is human capital. This is everything from recruitment to retirement and everything in between. Phase 3 touches every aspect for every single employee, our contractors, our temporary employees. So it's quite expansive. This summer, phase 1, which is finance, went live. So July 2023, we went live with finance. That means all of our dollars went off into the cloud. So that is currently functioning. And again, Courtney will share a little bit about that in a moment. Phase 2, which is budget, again, our plan for spending, that will go live this summer. So we are currently in development. We'll share a little bit about that in a moment. Phase 3, and this is comprehensive. And so phase 3 encompasses what we know today as OPMS, so performance management. All of our employee evaluations, our new system will go live in July of 2024. As we look ahead, the rest of phase 3, so this touches everything from our core HC system, so benefits, the plans people opt into, certification, compensation, it touches payroll, and we'll have a new time and attendance system. So currently we're in a paper-based system for time and attendance. So when you clock in, you write it down on a piece of paper. We're moving to digital time clocks to modernize that aspect of our system. And so that will go live. We say January 2025, but actually that is roughly a year from now. So December 16th, 2024, that is going to be the pay period that leads into 2025. So we'll go live a year from now. On the horizon, we have our learning management system. Currently, we have Blackboard. And so we'll be bringing online a new LMS system. And then farther down the road, we have a whole module on health and safety. So that's all around OSHA, compliance around field trips, workers' comp, things like that. That is down the road. So this is everything we're looking at across the next couple of years.
All right, so phase 1, as Sarah mentioned, we went live July 23. We finance were the guinea pigs of the operation. We were the test subject, so we got to go first with the AMP project. And as we know, there were some successes and some bumps as part of that implementation and go live. So we've done a lot of revision since then on what worked, what didn't work. Was the definition in Sandy's doing the same thing over and over. So, we try to learn lessons from that, and apply that to phase 2 and what we're going to be doing for phase 3 and moving forward as well. So for the go live, we know we transitioned all our financial systems into Oracle Fusion. So our expenses, our purchasing, which is the major thing that, folks interact with. And on the back end for us in finance, our accounting and financial systems are now in Fusion. So it's a whole new world for us and for our staff, for the folks who are interacting with the system. As to what that looks like, what the learning curve is. We've got a lot of support from the different departments in terms of getting folks up to speed, doing training. We have a training team in HC that specializes in this, in this work, building out what those training modules look like, offering multiple opportunities for folks to interact with the system. Even internally within our office in finance, folks just getting more familiar with what the system can do, starting to see some of the benefits, some of the differences, some of the changes. Oh, okay, this is why we did this type of thing. So we're starting to get to that phase. So a lot of it was, to get to that, we had to eliminate some of the backlogs that we had with the go live issues. So the transitions, data cleanup, triage. We spoke about vendor payments and things that we did to sort of rectify that and get back on track, bringing in extra staff, doing overtime, getting more support from the vendor to clear out some of those issues. We're happy that we've resolved, I think we're at about 98, 99% of those issues. There's still a number that are lingering. And a lot of that is because they had to be dealt with very individually, very manually. It wasn't something where we could just, let's just take this batch and convert it over. But where we are now, like I said, is sort of that exciting spot where we're moving from fixing things to imagining how things can be better. So instead of triage, we're putting in some updates and changes and figuring out how we can use the data. We have insight into things that we hadn't been able to see before in terms of how the data is represented or how you access it. I kind of get a small smile when I look at folks accessing the system who before were like, I don't know how to do any of this. And now they're just kind of like whizzing through screens and pulling up information. So some of it is building up that knowledge, but now that we have that, how do we maximize the system? How do we actually make it a technological, useful tool? And that's kind of where we're heading. And that's both internal in terms of the users getting used to it and figuring out what it can do, but also working with the vendor support to figure out, now that we know how we use it, what can we add on? What can we tweak? What doesn't actually work the way that we thought it was? What is it we carried over from the old system that maybe we don't really need? So we're still doing some technical stuff. You're still going to be seeing updates every now and then. We'll be doing rollouts. We try to minimize those as much as possible or not make them too impactful. But that's about where we are with phase one. Phase two, budget. So learning from phase one, we've kind of gone back to the drawing board in terms of revising the timeline. We knew that in phase one of the things that we learned is that we wanted to do more testing. So we're building that into phase two. So we're doing a lot of that on the front end instead of waiting for the final version of the system and saying, okay, now we need to go back and adjust. We're doing a lot more demos up front with the system for phase two. And phase two touches way more people. It's a budget tool. So, principals will be using it, secretaries will be using it, central office staff will be using it. The training requirements for a module like that are also pretty tremendous. So we're really very cognizant of what the user experience looks like for phase two. So that's where we are right now. We're doing some of the development for SIT testing, system implementation testing. So going through the technicalities of the tool, what it can and can't do, trying to replicate some of the things from the old system, and thinking about, again, what the user experience is going to be. Like lessons learned from phase one. We have our training folks sitting in on those sessions. So they're seeing that at the front end. They're not just coming afterwards like, okay, tell me how to use the system. They're seeing it being developed. So it makes it easier for them to transition that to building training material that's actually user friendly. So again, we took some of the bumps, but we think we're learning from most of that moving forward.
And so to continue what Courtney was just sharing, we are in the middle, or actually at the tail end of systems integration testing. And so essentially all of last year, we met with end users, we met with school leaders, we met with secretaries, we met with all different people across this organization to hear about their pain points. What doesn't work for you? We cataloged all that. We met with our vendors to share, this is what doesn't work. Here's how we want it to work. And we partner together to build out our system. And so systems integration testing is where the rubber meets the road. We get to see, did you listen to us? What have you built for us? Does this work? We essentially try to break it. And so that's what we're in right now. And so we have, as I said before, Core HC. We finished that testing in November. Benefits just wrapped up. We did a whole week of in-person. So we had our consultants come in. We had members of finance, HC, and OIT meet together and walk through in-person, face-to-face, show me how this system works end to end. If we hire someone here, can we pay them over here? You show us and prove that what we paid for and what we spent all this time on actually worked. And to be candid, some things passed. Some things are fantastic. Some things didn't. So we gave them that feedback. Just like Courtney said, we have another round of testing. Learning from phase one, We're gonna have a whole separate round of testing in April. Did you listen again? We're gonna test it again. It's that critical that we get this right. We wanna make sure that we are providing the best level of customer service to our employees. They deserve it and they work hard. They don't need to waste their time waiting for someone to respond to an email when they can be empowered to do things themselves in our systems. And that's really what we're going for. So across human capital, benefits, those are the core things we're testing. I do just want to highlight position control. So this is kind of like a back end wonky thing. So position control at city schools is very different than any other LEA, any other K-12 system in the United States. The way we do position control is a homegrown technical system that does not exist on the market. So what it does, and Courtney loves this, it doesn't allow any office or school to overspend their budget. The positions and the dollars are linked. You cannot hire into a position if the money isn't there. It's really, really important for clarity, both for our candidates and people we're hiring in and transferring around, but making sure that we are responsible with the dollars that come into the district. So I just want to highlight position control. That is a custom solution in current state, and we're building position control 2.0 in our future state. And that's the critical testing we're doing right now. It's very complex. It aligns people and positions and dollars. And so I just want to highlight that's actually like city schools is ahead of every other district we've met with, and we know this product does not exist on the market, and that's something that we really want to highlight and celebrate here. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of work going on with our performance management and learning management. So PMS, since actually we submitted this application, they actually signed the contract and they have started that work. So performance management is off and running. Again, that's slated to go live in July of 2024. We're really excited about that. LMS is we're in the requests for information. So we put that out on the street and we have vendors who are throwing their hat in the ring to say, yes, we'd love to come work with city schools. That whole process is off and running.
So as we've mentioned, payroll, even though part of finance, is part of phase 3 and the HC implementation. It's based largely on the HC systems and the data is in there on human capital. So payroll also is doing SIT testing. There are 2 components to payroll. So we have UKG, which is our timekeeping module, and we actually have the payroll processing, which runs through Fusion. So there's SIT testing for both of those components. So we have some of the data from the testing, just kind of giving you a view of what we look at, pass, fail, rerunning scenarios when they fail. And we absolutely, like Sarah mentioned, we deliberately try to break it. We try to find the loopholes. We'll try to find the inconsistencies. We'll come up with things that may not have been in the script. It's like, well, what happens if I do this? Well, no one's ever going to do that. But yeah, but what happens? So let's try it anyway, just to see if we can break the system. So we'll try to come up with some of those things, make those notes, make those adjustments. So some of the data here is from a few weeks ago when we first put the presentation together. We've updated some of that since then. The past statistics are actually a bit higher, but this was taken at a point in time from about, I think, 3 weeks ago.
And so a few things just to highlight. So around talent management, we are continuously filling vacancies. So ensuring that our current staff, we're fully staffed and we have enough people in their roles to do the work. Additionally, we hire backfill. So those are temps who can take the daily strain off of our staff. Our core people who are building this system and sitting with these consultants for hours and hours on end have a day job and their work doesn't go anywhere. So that's where that backfill really comes in. And so we know we're getting into our busiest time of the year for OIT, finance, and HC. It's budget season, which rolls into the new hiring season. And so the teams that are hiring, the teams that are developing budgets are also building the system. And so we have to be really careful with time and resources. And so we are trying to limit new projects that pop up because we don't want to burden our staff anymore. We're asking a lot of them. They are working, many, many hours to get this right for our district and make sure we're using our time and resources effectively. And so I just want to call out, they're doing 2 jobs already. And also because finance is live, we're maintaining 2 systems. So our current system here, also the cloud, it's a lot to manage. And that will only increase until we get to the full system go live a year from now, when everything is live all at the same time. To support this effort, we're putting a lot of emphasis on training and change management. Every district we've talked to who've done this, training. That is the key. We have to train our staff multiple times in multiple ways and multiple modalities to make sure that they have the opportunity to really learn how to navigate the new system. And so, as Courtney mentioned, we have excellent trainers who are, experts in Oracle Fusion. That is what they do. They're trainers in that space. And so we brought them on board to help build out our training and also help it be sustainable. So city schools can carry on after they leave, because this project will end, but then that is just our work, right? And so lastly, with communications, we're going to start building communications into all district-wide meetings, reminders, email blasts. This is coming. We don't want anyone to be surprised. We've been talking about it for years, but in 2024, that's actually when everything starts going live. And so it's critical that staff and stakeholders are very clear with the changes that are coming. And so our next steps, as I mentioned, communicating through our change management function, time clock installation. So there was an announcement a few weeks ago, because it takes a lot to install digital time clocks across the district with this many buildings and schools. That starts now. So we're actually ready for next year and everything is set up and ready to go. So those time clocks are in process right now in December, being installed in schools across the district. So that's pretty exciting. And then the last thing, our subject matter experts. So as Courtney mentioned, a lesson learned from phase one, more time in the system. So we have a sandbox where our staff can go in and play around and learn how to use the system without harming anything that is live in production. And so we have an intentional period through January through March to get our staff into the sandbox and practice their functions, because this will be their job come go live. And we want to make sure they're confident and they really enjoy their work, because we're trying to remove barriers so everyone can be empowered to do their best work on behalf of kids. So that is our presentation. Any questions?
Commissioner Mohammed.
I appreciate it. I think that it really sounds like there were early on some significant pain points that we had to grow from. And it seems like, we took that on and we are making training a must. So it's glad to hear that. My question is that when we look at this, there may be an opportunity for us to roll out a school or a group of schools rather than rolling out the entire system and finding out that there was a problem that we did not catch, even though we did all of this training. Is that part of the plan now? And with regards to the product evaluation that we're doing, is it any way that as a board that we could experience what you're actually doing? Like if I could go through it myself, because that's an interest that I have, because there was so much significant challenges early on with regards to the financial rollout.
To start with the first part about the rollout, so we've been examining different methodologies for the rollout, doing pilots. Some of it is dependent on the type of system and the data that you use. Some things are not conducive to kind of separating school by school, but there are things where we can, and we create those sort of self-contained universes like what Sarah was describing as a test environment. So we essentially will replicate pretty much all the data within an environment where we're not going to be impacting anything else. But one of the areas where we're particularly looking at this with regards to a staggered rollout is the timekeeping element and payroll, because that's going to be huge. And it's really something that's a shock to the system in some ways with regards to the responsibilities individuals will be taking on for their timekeeping moving forward. That was kind of done by different folks before. So the training there is going to be significant. So we've looked at whether we want to run the system simultaneously, sort of capture in both places and build behaviors. I will say we're kind of in between on about 3 different options right now as to where we're going to end up with that. Some of it is going to be, I think not just determining what we want the system to do, but also how we want to build behaviors for individuals. So a lot of that is a ramp up. There are things that folks have not had a history of being responsible for or doing. So building up that responsibility, but giving a safety net to do that is going to be very important. The other aspect about your participation, Commissioner Coy remembers he participated in phase 1. We brought him in on some of the sit testing to run through some of the scripts, and we'd be happy if you're interested, to invite you to do some of that as well. I think some of the elements will be of particular interest, so we can kind of, walk you through what it is we're looking at and what the timeline is, and you can decide, where you want to poke in. But we're more than happy to have, folks participate. The more you know about the system and the more you can communicate on it, I think will be more helpful for implementation.
I think just to add on, May, June would be the window after SIT 2. So we'll have a sandbox open and we'll extend an invite for any board members who'd like to join. We'd give you a persona. You would log in as a para or a teacher, and you would try to complete a transaction, and you would see what it feels like to renew your certification, to ask for a leave of absence, all of those things. That's exactly what we want everyone to be doing in testing.
Yeah.
Is that all, Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
I wanted to know how this is going to affect externally. I mean, I see a great panacea for internal management, but externally, how is this going to reflect on people who have to interact with our systems like vendors, et cetera, because that has been, a concern somewhere along, making sure that that's smooth in its operation. Will this be an enhancement for that?
It is part of the beauty, or I guess the upside to a system like this is that there is a lot of room for connectivity and expansion. So even simple things that we used to do very manually or paper oriented in the finance world, this system will allow us to have vendors, for example, upload invoices, once we build that capability and expansion. So the days of folks having to kind of like walk things over to central office, we can eliminate some of these steps and processes. Both sides of the coin. That also means we need to do a good job of communicating that to our partners and our vendors and so forth moving forward as we build those capabilities so that they know what's available, they can choose those options. We know historically that's kind of a mixed bag. Like, we have the option right now to do automated payments instead of paper checks. Some folks just really want paper checks. They're not interested in signing up for the electronic payments. So again, there's going to be an education component. There's going to be a sort of a trust or building relationship component. But we do think that there are a number of opportunities where we can do that. A lot of the HC items, and I'll let Sarah talk about it, I think are really more internally focused, but creating those efficiencies and ease of use for staff have a trickle-down effect on our external partners and vendors and everyone else as well. So your ability to get through information or even be responsive, and we've seen some of that in finance, folks email me about, a requisition or something, and historically, I might have to reach out to someone else with specific access to find out where something is. I can pop it in, look it up, and I can be more responsive myself. So it takes some of the time away from things that I would have had to be doing otherwise and allows me to be a better customer service representative for the folks that I'm interacting with. So we can see some more of that development, I think, from the system.
Thank you.
And I would just add on from the human capital perspective, it's all about the candidate experience. We want people to work and choose city schools, and having a delightful onboarding experience makes a huge difference. And so we're really excited with the things we've seen in test about how easy onboarding is when it pops up on your phone and it shows you exactly the steps you need to do. And you can click here and it's more seamless. And so that's really a huge focus for us, is we want to enhance that experience for everyone across the board. But specifically, we want to attract the best and the brightest, and we don't want to give them a reason for slowing down a hiring process to make other choices.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
The information and for the presentation. Commissioner Lawson.
A notice of upcoming meetings. Portrait of a Graduate, room 317, Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, from 5:30 to 8. Operations Committee meeting. It's a virtual meeting, Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Policy Committee meeting, virtual meeting, Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, from 4 to 5:30. And Safety and Wholeness Committee, which is a virtual meeting, Thursday, December 21st, 2023, from 4 to 5.
Thank you very much. And tomorrow we are also cutting the ribbon at the new Cross Country Elementary Middle School. We're very excited about that. Ask another district how many schools they've been able to open and remodel. within a 10-year time span. It's really significant. So thanks to the team, all of the staff that's put in work around that. And thanks to all of our partners in 21st Century that have supported us with that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Lawson.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawson. I'll take that as a second. Commissioner Slater Harrington, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and happy holidays.